Hello and welcome to the Bovasin Outdoor Chronicles. My name's Jared.
And my name's Garrett.
We're two brothers who love the outdoors, and we spend most of our time and all of our freedom on our adventures.
From working all week
to playing all weekend,
we find ourselves
surviving the week
to live on the weekends.
Well, who do we have in studio today, Garrett?
Adam, one of the finest bird taxidermists around Billings, Montana.
And this is one of his pieces?
This is not one of his pieces.
This is one of your
seen better days
pieces. Adam Hagenston. Did I say that right?
You did.
With Hagenston Taxidermy.
Correct.
All right. And how did you two meet?
Well, I recently shot a swan.
Which you've been trying to do for years.
Right. And I took the old lady out and we sealed the deal. So in her mind, it was like a done deal because we did it together. So I got permission. And then talking through Aaron, he was on last season. He's like, you got to check out this guy. He's does great work, super nice guy. And then I kind of messaged him and then met him and go from there. But man,
and you got your swan.
What an incredible piece that swan is. Every day I walk down my 4 steps into my living room, that swan's right there. It's a beautiful, beautiful
and
piece.
We'll put it right here.
Yeah, put it up in post.
Well, a piece that big is pretty hard to hide. You're going to see it whether it was good or not.
I remember you were texting me dimensions. It's this big or this big, and I'm looking at my spot on my wall, and I'm like, might
you
be
got it to
dragging
fit.
on the floor. Yeah, no, but it fit
fit
nice. Fit
Good.
really nice.
Well,
Good. So, Adam, why don't you? I'm kind of curious. I know Garrett met you through Aaron, and you did a beautiful swan. How did you start working on birds?
that's kind of a funny story. So I grew up in Montana. My father was a game warden. We moved around quite a bit. But I did eventually graduate high school in Billings, Montana.
What high school?
West, 1989.
Or senior kids.
Yeah, sorry.
My mom went to West, though, so that's
there we
good.
go. Right after high school, I joined the Army, and I was in the Army for 30 years.
What'd you do in the Army?
I was a mechanic initially, and then a maintenance tech, a warrant officer, and that's what I retired as in 2019. While I was in the Army, one of the last deployments I went on, it was about in 2014. I was over supporting the Syria train and equip mission that was going on. That was when Assad was barrel bombing his people, and so we had some folks over there that were going into Syria, getting refugees, bringing them out, training them, and sending them back in. I wasn't involved in that. I'm a maintainer, so I was in Jordan. And you don't go anywhere to support those guys and without internet. There's internet. And we had a little internet cafe. And I had a friend who had emailed me a picture of a really pretty cinnamon teal that he had gotten, and he was looking for a bird taxidermist. And it just got me thinking about bird taxidermy. So that evening, I just Googled, bird taxidermy. And I started watching YouTube videos, and I downloaded all the YouTube videos I could find. And I decided I was going to try to do that when I got back. So, about 6 months later, I got back to North Carolina, and I told my wife I was going to start bird taxidermy. And she informed me that I needed another hobby, like I needed a hole in my head. But I was determined to do it. Of course, it wasn't hunting season. And about the time hunting season was to come around and I could get a start to it, the Army moved me again, and I moved to Detroit, Michigan, and right on Lake St. Clair, which was a blessing because it was great duck hunting in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
It was fantastic, and lots of diver ducks mostly. And anyway, I made some good friends there and got into the hunting scene and immediately started trying to do bird taxidermy. I had ordered some of the pieces, and throughout that process, I did dump a hobby. I was beer brewing for 20 years before that, and my wife, we realized that we were going to have space issues, so I got rid of the beer brewing stuff and exchanged it for bird taxidermy equipment. And the first few I did, I've long since thrown away. They were pretty horrible birds, but
yeah,
every one that I did, I'd learn a little bit more, and I started doing them for friends, and they would hang them up reluctantly, I think, and
in the corner, or
right?
shady
like,
area.
Man, I'm like, that's one of his first birds, and so by about 2016, 2017, I was getting to where I was pretty proficient, but there were a lot of questions I still had that I couldn't answer from a YouTube video and, Google searches, and I'd call guys and they would help me out. I didn't have a business really at that point. I was just trying to figure. I was still in the Army, but then I took a break when I realized that I was going to retire a couple of years later. I went out to Minnesota. I took some leave from work and to St. Cloud, Minnesota, and went to school with this world famous, world champion taxidermist for a week. Spent a week in his studio on just mounting birds, and then I went back another time to learn about habitat building, and he answered all the questions that I couldn't get from a YouTube video. That helped out a lot. I learned a lot about how not to do a bird taxidermy from him, so I won't
make those
mistakes mention him from that reason, but things not to do, like don't get too many birds is really the biggest thing. You can't have 300 birds in your freezer. That's just crazy.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. But he was that good and in that demand that I guess that's just kind of how it went for him. But anyway, so then I got a license, and I started a business in Michigan initially, and started doing birds kind of on a low scale deal, and people were happy with them. And then I started competing in competitions because you'd get these judges that would just, pick every feather and tell you what you set wrong. And it was hard for a guy like me to take that kind of criticism, but at the same time, I learned from it every time, and that really helped. And I started winning some stuff, and I thought, I think I'm going to keep doing this. And so finally we retired and moved back to Montana, and I just moved the business here. And I just, I don't want it ever to grow too big because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's not work yet.
Yeah. I do other jobs too. I have other professions, so I'm not relying on the money from bird taxidermy, thank goodness, or I wouldn't be probably afford to be able to drive here. But I do it here. I try to do, 60 to 100 birds a year at most, and try to do a really good job on them and make people happy. And I enjoy doing it still for the most part. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah.
How do you limit the number of birds that you accept? Do you turn people away? No, or you just kind of...
I don't advertise.
Okay.
I pretty much, it's word of mouth. So like you heard from somebody else, that's pretty much all my client base, and they pass it around. And there's only a few clients that I have that are hell bent on mounting everything they shoot, or, mounting. Like I've got a guy in Cody who wants to get all 36 North American waterfowl species on his wall. So I get, 2 or 3 birds from him a year, but everybody else, like you met at a swan, you'll probably never bring another swan, right? So it kind of works like that. But I've never had to turn anybody away because my freezers are full, and I'm glad for that.
And then what about turning someone away because what they shot maybe isn't mountable? How does that process work? Yeah, so you definitely get into the whole what makes a bird a mountable bird or not. But I've had birds that have been spoiled that people have brought me or sent me, that you can't mount. It's just the feathers are falling out or whatever.
How's that conversation go?
Well, it's usually like, hey, I've inspected your bird, and I'll usually take pictures to show them, hey, your feathers are slipping, and that's because it was spoiled. It got shot and got warm, or who knows what, or if a guy brings a bird in and they've a pheasant, for instance, I got early on where they'd wrung the hell out of the neck, and I looked at it and I knew the neck feathers were going to fall out. So we had a conversation about it. And the guy went back, and a week later brought me a better bird. But
worked out in the end on that.
Yeah, worked out on the end on that. They're not, like if kid birds, when they come in, I don't care what condition, I'm going to try to mount them. If it's
little Susie or whatever brings their first pheasant in.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm going to try to do it. And I do some work for some, I'll plug a company, this Polestar company. They're out of Wyoming, and they connect kids with the outdoors, and typically, in many cases, disabled kids or ill, kids with diseases or sicknesses and stuff. And it's really a great organization. And so anything that they bring me gets mounted, because it's for a kid. But I haven't turned very many birds away over the years. I've been doing it almost 10 years now, and not very many.
So what makes a bird mount quality?
Yeah.
Like, what do you look for in a bird, and is it different, like waterfowl versus upland?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And then also, on top of that, you were in competition. So I'm sure there's a level that's like, this is good for someone's living room,
Right.
And then you get a specimen, you're like, okay, this one is so kind of perfect. I could use this in competition type of thing. Is that how that works? Or
I don't compete anymore, but I do. If I get a bird that's that good, I will tell somebody that this is a competition quality bird.
really?
But
How was Garrett Swan?
Garrett Swan was a
competition?
good commercial quality
There
bird.
you go. My man.
Yeah, so they, swans are tough because you're going to get them early in the season, generally October, November, like when you got yours, and they're not quite fully feathered out yet.
Mm-hmm.
On the waterfowl side, most waterfowl don't, even the adults don't get all of their feathers until mid-October. They still have some pin feathers because they molt in like July and August, and they lose most of their primaries and grow them all back. That's why you don't see a lot of ducks in the summer, because they're hiding away and sitting on the ponds that they're living on. They can barely fly. Upland, it's even a little later. September grouse. I've turned away some September grouse or just offered to do the fan or something like that, because you pull if you go above the tail feathers and you pull up above the rump, you'll see a series of pin feathers. They look like little purple dots. And generally all the pin feathers, during the taxidermy process, all those feathers fall out. There's no way around it. And then you end up with lumpy birds, or it just doesn't look right. The fullness disappears out of them, and they start to not look like a natural bird.
So like November, December is
yeah,
better
absolutely. So for waterfowl, anything after mid-October usually is pretty good. For upland birds, same kind of thing. I took in a couple sage grouse yesterday, and when I talked to the guy on the phone who was bringing them, I was like, I'm just fair warning, if they are the way I think they're going to be, I'm probably going to turn you away. But they were fine. They were big. They're big enough and mature enough males that there's enough feathers that'll make up for the pin feathers that are no doubt there, but they will fall out. But there was enough feathers, I think they'll cover up. We'll find out once you don't really know 100% until you take that bird apart and flesh it and skin it and clean it and wash it. Upland birds are much more fragile than waterfowl, and the feather density is much less. Upland bird have feather tracks. So there are places, like if you took a pheasant and you got it all wet, you'll notice there's strips with no feathers.
Yep. I noticed that because I pluck most of my birds, and
right.
Upland birds are like,
so they're
I
like
can pluck
so much better to pluck.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So the upland birds have feather tracks, whereas a waterfowl, a duck or a goose or whatever, it's feathers everywhere and down everywhere. So they have more feathers to deal with, and they hold together better. Upland birds are also, the feathers come out a lot easier than they do on waterfowl. You go pluck a duck versus plucking a pheasant. It's a big difference.
What about turkey?
Yeah. So if I had to pick a bird that I don't 100% enjoy mounting, but I'm in school right now to get better at it, so I do enjoy mounting. But turkeys are usually, we shoot them in the spring for the most part, and they're usually pretty solid. I've done some jakes, which are still pin feathery. Funny story. So a couple of years ago, a friend of mine wanted to mount a turkey for his living room, and he had his fall tag, and he's like, I'm going to wait until December, mid-December, and I'm going to go get one that's going to be perfect. And I was like, that's a great plan. So he did. He went out in December, and like the December 15th, and shot a turkey and brought it to me. And I was excited because I thought, this is going to be a perfect bird. And I skinned that thing, and it was the most pin-feathered bird I've ever had.
Oh, really?
I couldn't believe it. And so they molt somewhere in the winter, I guess. I found out turkeys, which is a terrible time in Montana for a bird to molt. But yeah, I had no idea.
So when's the best time for turkeys?
I really think those spring turkeys are great.
I got one in my freezer.
Yeah, I'm in school right now to try to get better at turkeys. It's, turkeys are somewhat like a swan. So just imagine if you had a feather blanket and you put it in the washing machine and then pulled it out, maybe drip dried it for a little while and then tried to dry it, and without pulling on the skin too much because it's heavy from the weight of the water and all that. And they're fragile. It takes hours. And, a turkey, I can mount a duck now efficiently with all the work and everything in about 6 hours. worth of work, sometimes less. And that includes the preening and taking care of it and mounting it to the form or to the, whatever display it's going to be on. A turkey is a lot more work, is 2-3 times that when it comes down to it. So that's why turkey taxidermy generally costs a lot of money.
I couldn't believe it when I was looking into it. I could not believe it.
Yeah, like $1,500, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you saw?
Yeah.
I'm not charging that, but it's still. I can understand why people do.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of folks that that's all they do is turkeys.
Down south, especially.
Yeah,
I know a
make
guy
money.
up here that sends all his birds to
Next
Georgia.
day air, yeah.
Next day airs them to Georgia to a guy down there.
Right.
But that's what he does all year is birds.
Yeah, this guy that I'm in school with, they're doing Zoom classes with this guy in Tennessee, and that's all he does is turkeys, and they do 500 a year. So you did the math on that. Obviously,
You get pretty good.
He's
Yeah.
making a living, right?
Oh yeah.
A good living doing turkeys, but it might get a little old, I would think. I don't know.
So as far as like the upland birds, is there ones that you prefer to mount versus ones you don't prefer to mount in the upland category, turkeys
so
included?
I love mountain pheasants.
Okay.
I think, in terms of like upland bird mounts, pheasants are by far my favorite.
Just-
They're one of my favorite birds to mount, period.
Because of the colors or the
Colors
ease?
and the feather patterns and tracks are easy to follow. It's a big enough bird that you're not having to try to, like that chucker there that we have here in front of us. Those are difficult. They're mountable. I mean, they're not hard to mount, but a pheasant's a lot easier to deal with than, say, a sharp tail.
What about like a hun? Get
Yeah,
real small.
They're not bad,
Yeah?
as long as the problem with huns is when they're warm, they lose their feather. I'm sure you've noted when you shoot a hun, even when you get in your hand, there's feathers falling out of it, most cases, right?
Mhm.
And so it's, how do you handle a hun to get it back to still be taxidermy ready? I don't mind doing all of those. If I had to pick one that is rough to do, it's rough grouse is probably the hands down hardest bird to mount cleanly because they are so thin-skinned. It's like rice paper. And then the feathers are barely there. And usually guys shoot rough grouse in September,
Mhm.
and their pin featheries on top of that. So it can be a challenge. If you shoot rough grouse and you're trying to get one mounted, you're looking for a tail that doesn't have any difference in the tail feather length. They're all the same length.
That's how you tell it's
So
mature.
the two feathers right in the center of the tail fan are the last ones to mature. And
Okay.
and they're also a little bit different colored between the male and female. You'll notice that. But the two center feathers, if they are shorter than the rest of the fan, then the bird's not there yet.
Not mature.
If you can shoot a rough grouse in December, November, December, it's usually a solid bird. But still, it's a difficult bird to mount for a taxidermist.
Is that all kind of mountain grouse? Like, is that true with spruce grouse and
I would
is it
love
Franklin?
I haven't had a chance to
Dusty.
mount a spruce or a Franklin yet. I haven't even killed a spruce or a Franklin grouse myself. I really want to. It's on my bucket list. My brother lives in Alaska, and they've got beautiful spruce grouse up there. Has big red combs on them. Gorgeous. I'd love to get one of those.
We've shot a few here.
Yep.
We did, was it 23? We did the Upland
I think it was 2023.
Upland Game Bird Grand Slam of Montana. We got
Okay.
every upland game bird in the state in one season.
Neat.
It was a lot of driving.
I bet it was. Yeah.
It
So you
was
had
a
to go to
lot.
northeast Montana to get the spruce grouse, I
Yep.
would assume. Or
Yeah.
northwest.
Northwest. Yeah.
Northwest. Yep.
Northwest, yeah.
Idaho border, basically. Yeah.
Right.
But
And this bird here was the hardest.
yeah, we went for years trying to find them. Just walked all day, couldn't find them.
Took us 3 years to find where we could shoot a chucker.
And
Yeah.
in fact, this mount came from my father-in-law was at the landfill, and someone was just had a whole
A
truckload
lady, her
full,
husband must have passed away. or
and she was
something.
just chucking them in the trash. And so
deer heads, antelope heads,
Wow.
elk heads.
he grabbed
birds.
what he could, but the dump person said if it hits the ground, it's dump property. You can't grab it.
Right.
So he watched him like run over a bunch of them, made him sick. But I got this chucker right, and I'm like, I've been looking for chuckers for years. So I think there was one weekend left in the season, and he had to go to Livingston for a family thing.
Yep.
So I went up on the rims with that, put like my little hunting hat on, and posed, took a picture so you couldn't see that it was on a plank.
Yeah, they actually.
And
got
I'm
it.
like,
I
you
thought
missed
he got
out.
one. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, they're hard. You know, they are definitely one of the hardest species to hunt. No doubt about it. Where I find them, you better be in shape.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they spend more time. They prefer to run than fly. Unless you can break them up, then you'll get a good hunt. But it's tough.
I feel like with chuckers, when I hunted them, they'd fly like straight away from you low. I just,
Generally, yeah.
yeah, versus
They
like
were
Sharpies,
fast.
you know, you kind of get those easy passing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun birds to pursue, and they're not bad birds to mount. They just getting them a big mature male, if that's what you're after. You might have to shoot a couple dozen chuckers before you get one that looks good. I'll tell you a little bit about the process. It'll help you understand what's good and what's not good. Bird taxidermy, you can kind of divide it into 10 categories of what happens when you're going to do bird taxidermy. You've got skinning. Somebody brings you a bird, you're going to skin it. You got to flesh it, which involves using a wire wheel and getting all the flesh and all the fat
Is
off.
it delicate? Like, how do you wire wheel them without
Ripping them apart.
ripping them
and shredding.
apart? Yeah.
Well, when you first start bird taxidermy, you're going to rip you apart. I can promise. I've had them get wrapped up in the wheel. Oh yeah, it's ugly. But you learn how to just kind of go at it. It's a softer wire, that you deal with, unless you're doing a goose or swan. Then I pull out the big heavy duty stuff, just like you'd use on a grinder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you got to get all that fat and all that flesh off of that skin around the feather quills. Otherwise, the skin won't cure correctly, or it'll slip, or rot. You don't want your birds rotting, and fat will eventually seep out of a bird if you didn't get it all. And you can't get on a waterfowl, especially there's no way to get it 100% of the fat or the flesh off. So it comes in one of the next steps in the process where you help mitigate that. But washing, so I would love it, especially with upland birds, if you didn't have to wash them at all, because washing, in the water tends to make feathers fall out that may or may not have fallen out if you hadn't washed them. But in a lot of cases, of course, there's blood on them and things like that you've got to deal with.
So are you just like in the sink with water and
Dawn dish soap? Yeah, like on a really fatty, like a mallard, I use Dawn dish soap like I own the company. I mean,
Like those oil commercials.
Absolutely,
A little bit different.
I'm just squirting it on there
And
until
is that after that skin's cured, or this is before?
No, this is so you've skinned it, you've fleshed it, you've inverted everything. The legs are inverted, the wings are inverted, the head's inverted. You got this empty body of a bird, and then you go to the fleshing wheel and you take all that stuff off, and then you go to the sink and you wash the inside of it, and then at least the way I do it, and then I invert it back the way it's supposed to be and wash the outside. And upland birds in particular, you know how an upland bird cleans itself, right?
Yeah, no.
It dusts itself. They dust.
Oh, yeah,
they take dust
Yep,
baths. If
yep.
you have chickens or ever watch chickens, they'll
Yep.
sit there and they scrape and they cover themselves with dirt and dust. Well, chuckers and pheasants and everything do the same thing. So they're dirty. You put them in a sink, it turns the water black.
Really?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's fascinating.
They don't look dirty when
No,
you
they
pick
don't.
them
They
up.
look
Yeah.
clean in the hand, but you got to
Yeah.
get that out of there because that'll attract mites and bugs and things like that later. So yeah, washing is a critical piece, and then drying them. So you usually drip dried, and then different taxidermists have different ways of doing this. I don't gas my upland birds, but I do gas waterfowl. Gassing is the last step where you've washed the bird, you've wrung out as much water as you can without damaging the bird. You've let it air dry a little bit, and then for waterfowl, I put them in Coleman fuel for about 10 minutes.
What do you
And then-
Really?
put them in Coleman fuel?
Yeah, in like a tub of Coleman fuel,
Like propane?
like the camp stove fuel.
How do you? It's in a liquid form.
Right, yeah. So the silver cans that you used to buy to fill your old camp stoves with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So white gas.
White gas.
There's guys that actually use unleaded fuel out there. I'm not. Either way, it's how I was taught to do it. But what that does is that penetrates those feathers and it gets the moisture away from that skin. I don't do it on upland birds because it takes too much moisture away and the skin dries out too quick while you're mounting it. But on waterfowl, it seems almost like a critical step to me because you don't get that loft and that pretty look. Those feathers don't, that under down doesn't puff up as well if you do it. Now, I've taken and you spend a lot more time with the next step is blow drying it, and you don't use your standard, your wife's blue dryer or something like that. I've tried that. It's too hot. I use a pet dryer. So it will at 2 speeds, either high pressure or low pressure, and you just work the feathers to get them back in. And it's amazing because you look and you've got this bird that's laying in the sink, and then you pull it out and it looks like a wet rag, just with it's amazing how far it goes. And then after you go through all this and you start blow drying, it starts coming back together and looking.
Coming back to life.
Yeah, and it starts looking, the colors come back out and the feathers start to get dry. And I get kind of excited in that step because you can see the bird slowly coming back, and that's kind of fun. So that's a piece of it. And then the next is preserving, and there are multiple methods to do that as well, but the most common method and the one that's been used for many, many, many years is borax. And so like your swan is cured with borax, puffed borax. So it's not 20 mule borax that you buy in the store. It's the same stuff. It's just been run through a grinder again, so it's really powdery. And you get that in there around it, absorbs all that extra moisture and any extra fat that was still left that is going to be there on waterfowl for sure. Absorbs all that. It acts as a drying agent and curing agent, and that's the preserving part of it. At that point, the bird is still pliable and flexible, and the skin is and everything. And then you've got to get it on a form. So in old days, like a really old mount, that may be an Excelsior mount. I don't know. The Excelsior is a type of grass that they dry. It's kind of like a weave thing, and they would wrap them and make a form based on the sizes, and tie it up with string and Excelsior and string, and that's what they would mount birds on. Nowadays, it's all, you measure the bird, or, there's pre-made forms, which is what I use, and there's a couple different companies. There's a lot of companies that make them. You find the ones that you like the best, and they usually have wing pockets and a neck spot and, kind of basic markings on where the legs go, leg bones and everything will sit. And so you have a form, and you put the bird on the form, you run wires into it and all that, and you mount the bird. That's you have form prep and then mounting. Sometimes you have to shave the form. If I get a really small pheasant, some kid's pheasant's first pheasant, and it was that year's young of the year.
Yeah.
It's not going to fit on a standard pheasant form or even a small pheasant form. So you have to shave some of that foam off and get it so it actually fits. So every bird I mount when I'm skinning it, I measure the length, the circumference, and the length of the neck. Even though some of them, I've been doing mallards for since I started. I know a mallard neck is 6 inches. I know the body is 9 by 11, but I measure them every time anyway, because you never know.
Yeah.
And some birds are different. So you mount it, and then this is where the hard part comes in. You got to preen it. And so on waterfowl, air pressure is your best friend. You can kind of get most of the feathers back into place that way, and then you got to go through and just move the skin around to where the bird sits naturally and looks natural,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you just let it hang, it's going to slump on one part. So sometimes you have to use pins and things like that to get things to line up correctly. Upland birds and turkeys, things like that, every feather group may sit in a different spot, and there'll be a lot of extra space in there. So you end up pulling entire feather groups around, especially on turkeys. I think they have 17 different feather groups on a turkey or something like that. And each one has a different location that sits on that form. And so you have to use pins and things like that. I'm learning how to get around that on the school I'm in, and maybe that'll help. But even pheasants have a giant crop. You guys ever shot a pheasant that's just full of corn or whatever? It's got like a baseball and under it. That's because they have these huge crop, and there's these 2 big patches of bare feathers on their neck. Well, you have to mitigate that, otherwise it looks. The first few pheasants I didn't do that. Goodness, what's wrong with this pheasant's neck? I couldn't figure it out, and so I've since learned you actually run a stitch up that part and pull it tight and suck those open spaces together, in the process. Anyway, it's kind of neat. So preening, that's getting everything in place and pinning it so that it's where you want it and you're happy. You're looking at it. Okay, it's mounted on the piece of driftwood or on the plaque or whatever you're going to do with it. And then you walk away for a while and you come back and you go at it again. And you do that for a few days. On waterfowl, you've usually got 2 or 3 days of being able to move some feathers around and maybe adjust stuff. On upland, you have about a day. And then it starts to lock in. And even after that, things are going to move a little bit. That's why that fleshing is so important, because if you don't do it right, there's going to be tendons and they pull and they will contort the bird a little bit.
So you just let it dry? There's no glue or anything that goes on before
I
the
use
skin?
I use caulk, like
Okay.
a window and trim caulk on the insides of my birds. That there's cotton material that goes in there. I don't use any sort of glue generally. There are guys that do glue their birds, but the caulk acts like a glue,
Mm-hmm.
like in the cheeks, like on your swan, in order to get those to, they'll sit really flat if you don't puff them
Pump
out.
them up a little bit.
Yeah, so you got to stick some caulk in there. So you go through the ear hole and with a small syringe, kind of swell that up. So and that helps kind of hold things together too. And I did some wood ducks today that are standing, and in order to make that wood duck, those feathers and those wings sit correctly, and those bars on the wings, I'll wrap them with strings so that everything doesn't move until they dry. And once they dry, then all that can come off. It takes a little while. So drying is a process as well. You got to keep an eye on it, make things are going right. If things go really south, like I had one once at Sharp Tail where the neck was just, as it dried, it kept twisting. What did I do wrong? And so you can rehydrate them. You can get them wet again, and you can go after and see if you can find out what's wrong. And it was a tendon that was in there I didn't get or something. And cut that, and then it went back to normal. After I dried it again, and went through, But you can't take a bird apart for the most part after you've mounted it. You're kind of there. If you do it initially, you could take the stitches out and open it back up and see what you got wrong. But after a couple of days, you're kind of past that point, especially if you use caulk. That's the one thing about using caulk. Once you start injecting caulk into that bird, well, you're past finish line. That's where it's going to be. And then there's painting in there too. So like that chucker there in front of us, they didn't paint the feet on that. In injecting feet, like on waterfowl, if I use the original feet, I'll use an epoxy stuff, this 2-part epoxy that gets injected into the feet. Master's Blend it's called, and it gets into all the areas and makes the feet swell up like they're natural, and then they dry in that way. And then eventually you have to paint it. You got to, especially on things like mallards, their feet will dry almost like a brown. So you have to paint that orange, at some point. So you can do that before the process too. You can remove the feet and mount them to the wire and paint them if you know exactly what position they're going to be in.
And there's not enough meat or anything on those feet for any kind of preservation, just the injection of the epoxy and
it seems to,
drying is
yeah.
good.
So like on the swans, and I did do this on swans and large geese, where they have an incredible amount of, you remove as many tendons as you can, which helps. And then I'll inject a mixture of formaldehyde and glycerin in there just to make sure. And that ensures that you're not going to end up with smelly bird, down the road. I haven't had that happen yet. Knock on, where I've had one rot on me, but I have had one leech on me, is called, where really fatty mallards are notorious for this, where you get as much fat off as you can, but it's easy to overflesh a mallard, or you flesh it until you've gotten all the fat, but then you're just this really thin skin, and you hit it with that wire wheel and it just comes apart, So there's like that, got to find that happy medium where you've taken as much off as you can and it's enough. I've had it where obviously it wasn't enough, and then eventually it'll find a hole somewhere, either in your stitching or a bullet BB hole, and that fat that's in there will liquefy and comes out like a yellow glue. It's nasty. You can remove it with some more white gas, But I have had that happen with a guy's bird before and felt pretty bad about it, but we got it cleaned up. That's kind of the process.
And as far as like painting, are you hand painting this? Do you spray paint feet?
Yeah, I use an airbrush.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had to learn how to. I'm not very good airbrusher, but I'm getting better. And there's some pretty intricate guys that the competition stuff you paint, and then you wash with a overwash to fill in all the little crevices and everything there, so it looks even more natural. I mean, it's very critical. And on most of the birds that waterfowl I use artificial heads now. You don't end up with that shrinkage and issues where the beak changes color later. And there's just a lot of advantages to using an artificial head. They cast them, so they'll skin the head out, inject the eyeballs and everything, and then cast it. And they sell those, all different types. And 99% of the birds I do, that works out perfect. Most upland birds, minus pheasants, I use the original head. Just like that chucker is obviously the original head. I can tell by the beak, even though it's faded.
Yeah, it's seen better days, that's for sure.
Right, but you use the original head, and so you skin the bird back and you leave the head in the body. You invert it still completely all the way to the beak, and you clean out the eyes and the brain and everything else, and get that all clean, and then you attach the neck to that and put it back into the body. That's the best way to do those smaller upland birds. I used to be afraid of that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like quail, you have to make an incision in the neck because the head's too big. It won't fit. I mounted a crow once from Wyoming. They're allowed to shoot them in Wyoming and in North Carolina or in Michigan. They can shoot them. And the crow's brain is huge, right? I don't know if
I've heard they're smart.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, it's huge, and their head is huge, and it does not fit back through their neck. There's no way to do that. So you have to make a big cut under the underside of the neck and actually invert it there. I learned that from a YouTube video, though. So anyway,
YouTube's a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of information.
Oh, yeah. In terms of what can be fixed, guys.
Yeah, what about, as we're talking about bird heads and stuff, what about like a European mount for a bird? Has anybody asked you for like a...
You mean like a skull mount kind of thing?
Yeah.
So I've done turkeys.
That's what I was wondering.
I've done turkey skulls.
How are they? Because I feel like birds are so delicate.
They are delicate, and a lot of that...
How do you get all that flesh off without...
So it's a lot. There's a lot of cartilage in there too, right? So really the top half of the turkey head is the part you can save.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom half, that lower jaw where it connects, it's not really a bone. It's more of just a tendon that's there that holds it. And I haven't figured out a way to get the lower jaw to stay together. I've seen pictures of what guys have done it, but the upper part of the head, including the beak, you can definitely Euro that, which is just like a deer. You don't keep the lower jaw in most cases.
Yeah.
So it's doable, and the way I've done it is just a really low simmer. My favorite way is an immersion heater for like a cow tank.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way I do my deer heads. And that way you're not boiling propane and trying to, mitigate temperature. You never want it to boil. And you just go really slow, and you go in there, and you can't pressure wash it like you can a deer head.
Yeah. That's
so
delicate.
You go in there with little picks, and you just kind of pull things apart. And you have an initial boil or initial simmer where you get the majority of the stuff off, take the eyeballs out before you start. And then the second round, you put some borax or some sort of degreaser in there to help pull the rest of it off, and run it under the sink, maybe under the, if you got a sink with one of the ones that's got the sprayer on there, you can turn that on, it'll get some of it out. But it takes time. But I've done a few, but I don't get any requests for that other than some of the guys that want the turkey fans with the feet and the wings and
the skull
in the center.
Yeah.
And they actually sell some artificial skulls that are right on, but yeah, I do a bunch of those for that Polestar organization, the turkey feet fan tail, thing. But
you like those? Just the full turkey
the full turkey. Yeah. When I first started doing stuff for those guys, I was doing a lot of full body mounts. And one, parents got to figure out where they're going to put it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And two, it's a tremendous amount of work. So
yeah,
we migrated to doing
the fan.
The fan. And I was doing the head for a while. I would send the head off to get freeze dried to a place in North Carolina that does it. And they do a great job, but they've gone way up in prices over the years to where it's not really cost effective for me to do that as much anymore. So we don't do the heads unless it's something really special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is there a great white whale or like a bird that's on your list to do? You mentioned spruce grouse, and maybe it's something you've done before, but like that's at the top of your list. You see it come in and you get a little giddy or a little excited.
I get pretty excited about unusual sea ducks. I'd love to do a king eider.
Mm.
I think that would be the guy that I went to school with in Minnesota had a big glass display case full of king eiders, and he used to do guide trips up there to the Aleutian Islands, I guess is where they get those, or somewhere up there in Alaska. And amazing. I mean, they're just incredibly beautiful birds. I love doing diver ducks, period. They hold together better, and their feathers seem to kind of cooperate the best. They're fun birds. But
What do we shoot a lot of?
Goldeneye.
goldeneye, I
Have you
like
done
doing.
some
I like doing
goldeneye?
goldeneyes. Yeah, big mature goldeneyes. I enjoy doing mergansers. I brought a couple of pictures of some merganser. A merganser I did a couple of years ago that you guys would find interesting. So this was a common merganser that was shot on the Shoshone River in Wyoming, and I know your listeners can't see it, but you can talk about it.
Well, I could scan this in and.
You can see when I skinned it, I was like, what is in this bird? Why is the neck?
Was inside.
What was
that? Was inside this bird?
Yeah. So I was like, what's wrong with his neck? It had a 10-inch rainbow trout in his
word.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
How did it even fit through his mouth?
I know. So I have it sitting next to his body. In the next picture, you can see it's
Yeah.
actually bigger than his entire body on the inside. And so I emailed the Wyoming fisheries, or the fisheries manager at the Wyoming Fish and Game, and said, hey, do you think mergansers are having an impact on trout populations on the Shoshone River? And I got a very nice, well put together email back that basically said, no, they're not having an impact, but thank you for your fascinating picture.
That is insane.
Do you mind if
Holy
we keep these?
Yeah, you can have them. That's why I
awesome.
brought them anyway. They're
Holy moly.
I cannot believe that.
Well,
Look
you
at
can
that.
kind of see the bird
Yeah,
taxidermy
10 inch,
process in that
Yeah.
picture too, where you've removed the body and the neck is still in there, obviously, in the head. But anyway, I do like doing mergansers. I've done some really neat. I did a merganser mount for a guy this year that was diving for a minnow, and that was a fun mount to do.
So do you do the minnow as well, or can you buy those?
I bought I haven't got into any other taxidermy yet. I
Birds
thought
only. No
birds
fish.
if if I was going to do another, it'd probably
You're
be
telling
fish.
me you didn't get the 10-inch trout in this one?
No. I know the guy that obviously this is actually the guy that's trying to get all the species on his wall, and I told him about it and I sent him pictures, and he thought it was fascinating, but he wanted nothing to do with the trout.
Really?
Yeah.
What's
duck
crazy to me is that trout doesn't look like.
It hadn't been in there that long. It's still
No.
got spots on it.
Yeah,
and everything.
like you might have been able to gut it and put it
Yeah,
on the
there you
grill.
go.
It looks pretty
Little
fresh.
duck with a side of trout.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
Man.
Mergansers are they're like a dinosaur looking duck, They have the
Yeah.
like little teeth on their beak.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
kind of a
And you knew, like, those commons have red eyes, and that they're an unusual bright orange feet. I think even the most accomplished duck hunter has seen the bright orange feet coming over their head and thought instantly that it's a big mallard, and then went, oh wait,
Yeah.
green head,
Yeah.
orange feet. But wait, that doesn't look right. Yeah.
Well, and a lot of guys don't like to shoot diver ducks too, because it seems like
they don't eat as good.
they don't eat as good.
Well, and that's why they're eating they're eating fish.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I was in Michigan, I did one of the competition mounts I did was with old squaw longtail ducks.
Mm.
And they're not that hard to hunt. We basically went out in the Lake Huron and towed some decoys behind us, and they come flying by. They're neat ducks. They make an unusual sound. Sounds like a baby crying when they come flying.
Really?
Yeah, they do. They're neat, but they're beautiful, beautiful birds. And we were trying to get pretty drakes, to do for mount. So we ended up shooting our limit. And
When you're shooting for a mount,
yeah,
is your setup a little different than if you're just going to get something? Are you
No.
watching your shot size, or you know what I mean?
not really. I mean, I've talked to guys about, hey, if you really want to mount your birds, you shouldn't shoot them with, BBs. or triple Bs, but no, not so much. I can fix just about anything. I can, I can replace primary feathers if I have other primary feathers from the same bird. Like I keep extra wings from things like that. I can replace feet with cast feet if they're too shot up or something like that.
So is that something you like people to give you once in a while? Do you like mallard wings or
I've got plenty of that.
wings?
Yeah, common ducks I don't really need. I've got plenty of that, but if I get unusual stuff, it's nice that if somebody shot, a lot of times guys will bring me 2 or 3 birds and say, hey, pick the best one. And then in that case, I'm like, well, absolutely, here's the best one. And then the other 2, I'll take some parts off. Yeah, or, try to make 1 out of 2. And I've had to do that too, where they were both so shot up. It just seems like it usually works out to where both of the left wings were blown apart, or
they came in on the same angle.
Right, who knows what. But like back on those old squad, we went to eat them because we had a bunch of extras. And they were inedible. They were really tough to eat. I don't throw away stuff. So, I tried to give I had a German short hair pointer at the time, and I was like, I got a treat for you, Harvey. And he just turned his nose up and walked away.
No, even the dog.
I was like, wow, those are bad. It's kind of those goldeneye can be about like that too.
Yeah.
But there's a guy that brings me ducks that loves goldeneye, eating them. Yeah.
Here?
Yeah.
We might have to exchange numbers because I could feed the guy.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, good grief. Pretty rough.
My wife, she figured out a recipe. She's her stepmom's side of the family's Filipino.
Okay.
And she makes I'm gonna butcher it, and I'll get picked on online for it. But
uncultured.
Yeah, it's like this adobo she makes with it, but then she puts it in. And adobo's like this very salty soy sauce, like
right,
dark marinade you let it sit in. Well, then she chops it up fine and puts it in egg rolls and deep fat fries the egg rolls.
Yeah.
We ate a lot of goldeneye.
Yep.
Yeah,
that ain't the way to go.
Didn't even phase us.
Well, when I was out in Michigan, one of my hunting buddies, his wife would make pho, which is like a Asian soup, and so we'd shoot a lot of scalp out there, bluebills, and sometimes you open them up and they're fine. They taste great. People have been eating bluebills and scalp for years, right? But sometimes they taste like they've been eating a shellfish, and you can tell. But it didn't matter in that pho. She would slice it really thin, and you put it raw in that hot boiling soup, and it would and that was the way to eat it. It would just kind of cover it up. It was pretty good. And I've had them. You smother them in barbecue sauce. I got a buddy in Idaho. We shoot a lot of shovelers when we go down to New Mexico to hunt ducks in the winter, and we try not to shoot as many now, but we used to shoot quite a few because we were trying to get pretty drakes, and he was making shoveler balls where he would grind up the shoveler, mix it with a bunch of spices and different stuff, and turn it into like a meatball, and then cook it that way. And then,
I haven't eaten dinner yet. You're getting me.
Yeah. Anyway,
I don't know if you can hear it on the mic, but my belly's getting a little grumbly.
Yeah, the shoveler balls were pretty good. Although, hey, come over for shoveler balls. And people are like, I don't think so.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I can fix all the broken bones for the most part.
Yeah,
I figured that out.
Well, I'm trying to think. I'm sure care's different between like upland game bird and waterfowl, but if I were to shoot a bird, okay, let's say upland right now because migratory's not open yet. Say I shot an upland game bird. What is my care steps? Right, I shot a leg off. Right, you could fix a leg that's dangling.
Yeah, so I can fix that. But it's really more about how you handle the bird in the field than what happened to it when it was shot. There are a couple things to look for. So, like say you shot a sharptail and you were considering mounting the sharptail, and you notice that the legs are broken on both legs, then you can assume that it was shot in the guts at that point, or there's BBs in the guts. Well, what happens when they get gut shot, whether it's waterfowl or upland, is that bile leaks out of their gizzard and their stomach area, and if it gets next to that skin, it's going to deteriorate it a lot faster than if it doesn't. back in the market days when they shoot, some people still do it. They'll hang ducks and hang birds for long periods of time, 2-3 days before they even cut them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be assuming that it wasn't gut shot. If it was gut shot, that's probably not a good idea because it's going to rot it. So you look at that bird and you notice it's gut shot. You've got a couple of choices at that point. You can instead of making a horizontal incision to gut it, you could make a incision from the base of the breastplate down to the vent and pull the innards out of it, which would remove that
Might save it.
possibility.
Okay.
Yeah, and the
What
taxidermist
about
can
wash
still
it
do.
out?
No, keep as much water off of it as you can.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my general rules on field care is 1, never wring the neck. Learn how to pith.
Piff.
So
Pith.
pithing is inserting an object into the back of the head, a nail or a wire, or they sell tools. You
Yeah.
can go to
You've got
Cabela's
one.
and get a pithing tool, right? And brain them, or, worst case, you can squeeze them. There's different ways to kill a bird without wringing the neck. When you wring a neck on any bird, especially upland birds, you separate those feather quills from the skin. And even if the feathers don't fall out, they are going to fall out when they get in my sink.
Okay.
And then I have to figure out either I have to shrink the neck and try to cover it up or whatever. It's a terrible idea. Don't wring necks.
I've got what would you call it? A lanyard, a duck lanyard
And it has
that I tied.
Yeah.
And it's got, basically, it didn't work for the geese because the geese were too big. But for ducks, we're shooting all those diver ducks. I just hang it in the blind.
Yeah.
And I tied little nooses. And so when I get a bird, they just hang there. Now, is that okay? Or
well, yeah, you're not breaking the neck. I'm down with it. There's a couple, there's different methods guys will take, like for smaller birds, like huns and stuff like that. If you just press down on the back, right between the shoulder blades, if you will, you collapse the heart and you squeeze the air out of the lungs and you hold that for a few seconds, you'll kill the bird. But you have to be careful because if you can push some feathers out of the way doing that, or cause it to slip or whatever. So the best way is just
a little nail,
the back of the head, swish it around.
What do you carry?
I got just a little piece of wire that I keep in my bird vest.
Is it hard? I've never done it before. Is it
12 gauge chunk of wire I cut off out of my shop, and
it's not difficult to push it through?
No. So like on a duck, you'll take the bill and you'll hold it down, and you just, what you're going for is where the spine meets the back of the head, where it goes into the brain, and you push in right there. There's a soft spot there, and then you'll feel it go in, and you'll see the duck will just immediately, the legs will go down and drop, and then you're in the right spot. And sometimes it takes a little bit, but the big pithing things that they sell commercially, like at Cabela's or Shields or whatever, it looks like a hook.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll see that's because you go in backwards and you hook it. But you can, if you do it too hard, you're going to break the skull, and that's going to make my life difficult. I can still deal with it. I get plenty of headshot birds.
Yeah. So you mentioned gut shot's not great. Headshot obviously is not great. What am I looking for?
Well, headshots are fine. I mean, if it's blown apart and there's a bunch of, seepage or feathers missing on a head, there's not a lot of places to cover up because there's not many feathers there, right? As many as on the body. So you got to look for that. If the beak shot up on a waterfowl, it's no big deal. I'm going to put an artificial head on it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry about that. And most taxidermists are using those. If you have a taxidermist that's doing the original, or you want to go old school and use the original beak, then obviously you don't want BB holes in it. We can use epoxies and clays and stuff to help get around that if we needed to.
What in the field, if I wanted to mount a bird and I saw it on my bird, would be a no-go? Like, hey, damn it, I can't mount this. I blew it in half with triple BB shooting geese. Or
if your dog mauled it and you lost a bunch of feathers, big patches of feathers that are missing, I can't replace. Other than that, broken wings, if it blew off, a major section of the wing and there's all kinds of broken apart, I can replace some primary feathers. It's difficult to replace secondary feathers. Those are harder to get in there and work with. I've done a few. If it's on a big bird like a mallard, I can usually do a secondary if it's missing. I can't replace like neck feathers and stuff like that. If it,
So that's why wringing the neck. Watch that.
oh yeah, it's a
'Cause
bad
you-
idea. Tail feathers too can be hard to replace, but it's easy to cover up a missing tail feather. You just kind of overlap it like a turkey fan. If you're missing a turkey feather, it has
Yeah.
17 instead of 18,
Yeah.
right?
I
You deal
didn't
with
know
that.
they had a set number.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Good. Now I'm going to be
I
counting
gotta go
them.
home and count.
Yep,
oh,
they're-
that's a.
they'll be strutted up coming in. I'll go 1, 2, 3,
Right.
4.
Yeah. The biggest thing with birds in the field, I would say, is besides wringing the neck or head biting. You guys ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
It's an East Coast thing. I actually experienced that in Michigan, where it's an old school deal where so guys would get a wounded duck and they bite the head.
Oh my word!
Oh,
I
check
don't
it out.
think
There's videos of it.
I
and
don't
everything.
think I would ever stick a live duck head in my mouth.
Right. So yeah, don't do that. Um,
Like Ozzy Osbourne.
they don't bite it off. They just
Just
break
crush it, yeah.
the skull, right? And then keep them clean and dry and cool. And so clean and dry would be, obviously there's going to be blood on a bird and that's fine, but try to mitigate that. If you have some towels, you kind of wipe off as much as you can. If you're going to put it in your bird bag and it's bleeding at the time, it's a good idea to bring some paper towels with you or something to kind of wrap it around the bill or something like that to keep it from bleeding out too much onto the feathers. Most of that's going to get washed off, but what happens on upland birds anyway is it integrates with the feathers and it'll stick to the other feathers, and as you're washing it, sometimes it'll pull them out. And it can all, if I don't do my job right, that also will stay there, and then it'll lead to rot later or bugs or something.
So would it be wise to carry like peroxide? Could I
No.
squirt it with peroxide? I want to
No.
keep them dry.
Just keep them as dry as you can, clean and dry, and then cool, right? As cool as you can. So this is where I want to get into one thing is you'll hear. So you've always heard of guys carrying nylons with them, right?
Mm-mm.
Like
I've never
taking
heard of that.
women's nylons and stuffing birds in nylons. Oh yeah, it was a thing for years. And
Is that a back east thing too?
no,
Really?
no, that's like if you want birds mounted. I've taken in lots of birds with nylons, and on waterfowl, especially during the winter, that's probably okay. But what's one of the main reasons women wear nylons?
Warm.
Right. You take an upland bird and you stuff it in a set of nylons, right? It's going to hold all the feathers in there nicely. It's also going to keep it nice and hot for as long as you have it there. And that heat is your enemy. That's, birds are hot anyway. Their body temperature is like 112 degrees. So it's
Interesting.
another 15 degrees more than we are. And so on a, warm October day, especially if it's shot up or whatever, you can spoil a bird pretty quickly. Nylons on waterfowl, I suppose it's fine. It doesn't really. I'd rather guys just carried a Walmart bag with them or something like that, a lightweight bag. Try to keep it away from your other birds. Try to keep it clean and neat and dry and let it cool off a little bit before you stick it in that cooler.
How do you cool off a bird? Because we went and we shot some sage grouse this year.
Yeah.
And we threw them in a cooler on ice. We throw them in a trash bag
Yeah.
together to keep them from getting wet. But like you said, I mean, they were on ice all day. When we got home, they were still kind of warm.
Yeah.
You
Sage
know, they
grouse
have all those feathers.
all those feathers, and they're just a naturally big bird, right? So they're going to hold
Yeah.
a lot of heat.
Yeah.
The way for eating anyway, the way was brought up is I keep some bungee cords on top of my dog kennel that's in the back of the truck, and you put the birds up there and let air circulate around them a little bit for a while, and it seems to cool them off a lot better. I think putting them in a box, even if there's ice in there, doesn't.
Because they're so well insulated.
They're
That makes sense.
and you're kind of combining that heat. But yeah,
And what about gutting them?
you can absolutely gut birds. For taxidermy purposes, like I said, if you're going to gut your bird, which will certainly help it, you're going to want to try to do it the other way, opposite of what you'd used to doing, where you would go down to the vents and make a sideways slit and pull the innards out. Instead, make it up and down, from like the breastbone down towards the vents, and then carefully pull the guts out, kind of wash off anything that spills on those feathers if you can. Not wash off, but wipe off. Other than that, I can deal with it. I've had guys bring me like sandhill cranes where it's ribeye in the sky. Well, they really want to eat that bird, and I don't blame them. I want to eat it too, and I'll give them the meat back if they bring it to me and it wasn't spoiled. It didn't get BBs through it. But I've had them where they've actually, made the full cut and peeled it back. Somebody knew what they were doing and took the breasts off. And then it's hard for me to measure or imagine the measurement at that point, but you just have to assume that the breasts were completely there. But yeah, you can cut the birds.
And that's what I don't know about you, but I don't really get to pick my shot when I'm shooting at birds.
No.
I hit them and I'm like, I got
it.
what
I shoot every one of mine right in the head.
I watched a video, one guy who was talking about how he wing shoots birds all the time. And I'm just like, I'm not at that level.
No.
So I wouldn't mind gutting birds if I was going to taxidermy them, but I've always been nervous about ruining it.
Yeah.
I
think as long as you keep it clean and dry, and in most cases you're not going to even have to gut it. If you know that it was gut shot or it's and there's bile coming out, then it's probably a good idea to, if you're going to have it for a while. If you're just going to be back that afternoon and you're going to be able to get it cooled off or get it to me or another taxidermist, in a timely manner, or get it right in the freezer as soon as you get back, then it's probably going to be okay. But even putting them in the freezer, in a bag in the freezer, same thing. You're still condensing that, and it has more time to spoil because it's going to take a while to freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I have to thaw it. And so for like a chucker, right? I took 3 chuckers out of the freezer this morning and set them on the table. They're still not thawed. They'll be thawed tomorrow morning, not enough for me to skin them. I get a goose. Sometimes it takes, a day and a half.
What about a turkey?
Yeah. Yeah, 2 days minimum, and that's at and you don't want to overdo it. So I'd rather thaw them in the fridge.
Yeah,
Keep
so
you
that
cool.
I'm not going to spoil stuff. But it doesn't ever seem to work out to where it's fast enough. So the meat ends up spoiling on those birds when you do that way. I did a bunch of swans when I was in Michigan for these guys that wanted them flying from the ceiling on strings, and it was cool mounts. But they'd bring them back whole from North Carolina. And they'd ride in the back of their vehicle whole and, absorbing all the sun. And then they'd get to my place frozen eventually. And then I'd thaw them out. And it was almost unbearable in the taxidermy room because they smelled that bad. They were they weren't spoiled to where the feathers were falling out, but they were close. Right. And you can tell right away. So there's no saving the meat on those or any of that. But yeah, I think I like it when people bring me birds and they've gone through the effort to. You should, as a bird freezes, it's gonna compress the liquid that's in it, and most escape routes are 2 places, right, top and bottom, right, and it's gonna squeeze out. So wrapping the head in or the bill, sticking a cotton ball in a duck mouth, or wrapping it in a little bit of paper towel or something like that will prevent that liquid from coming out and leaching into the feathers, right? So that's a good idea. Putting the head under the wing is best because in the freezer, as a bird is frozen, if it gets rocked around or you're moving stuff, it's rubbing on a hard surface, right? So it's going to rub some feathers off in that process. I've gotten birds where I was like, hey man, the head was rung on this. And then I realized it wasn't. It was because they froze it like lengthwise, and then somebody dropped something on it. The neck broke in the freezer, and the skin broke too. Of course, they didn't see it, but that's how, so freezer care at the same time is really important.
So how long can a bird be frozen before
it's a great question. So it really comes down to 2 things. One, what type of freezer it's in, right? So if your typical refrigerator freezer, top or bottom, or whatever, the bottom or the top, the freezer part is a frostless freezer nowadays. You can tell because if you open the door, you hear a fan. And so you don't have to defrost your freezer routinely, right? That is basically a dehydrator, right? So if you've got a bird in a plastic bag in a frostless freezer, you've got less than a year before it starts turning into jerky. And it becomes very difficult for me to skin it or rehydrate it. I've gotten ducks that have been in those frostless freezers for less than a year, and I'll have to soak the head in Windex or something like that to try to get the skin soft enough that I can get it off without, removing feathers and things like that. If you got a chest freezer, that you have to defrost every once in a while, things like that, that's much more doable. You could leave them in there a long time. And I've done birds that have been frozen for 5-6 years, and being able, it's harder the longer they're in there. But the other thing that happens on a bird in either frost-free or frost normal freezers, eventually as they dry out the wing area. So your bird wing is a lot like a human hand. You've got a humerus, a radius, an ulna, and an alua, and then a bunch of feathers, right? Same thing on a bird, exactly the same. But this area between the radius and the ulna and the alua is very thin and full of bones. Well, that's right where your primary feathers stretch out. So if you want a flying bird and it's been in the freezer a lot of times that will dry out to the point that you can almost not open it. I recently did some black swans from New Zealand that a guy brought me, unusual, and shell ducks. They were very unusual birds, neat. The black swans were especially unique because they're a lot like they're a swan, but add another 6 inches to the neck with a smaller body. Incredibly difficult to mount, and they have curly feathers. They look like something that should be on some king or queen's pond or something like that, and not.
So with the curly feathers, is that different from traditional waterfowl?
Oh, yeah, it was really unusual. I thought I did something wrong.
You're like, why are the feathers curly?
Yeah, I was like, why are it was the secondary feathers of the wings. They were all curly. And when I thought, oh, my God, I did something wrong. And so I thought maybe I overgassed it, or, I've never had this happen before. And so I started looking on the internet and looking at these pictures of these black swans, and sure enough, yeah, they have curly feathers. I'm like, oh, well, that's that. But anyway, they had those, and they had shell ducks. And the swans were, because they came all the way from New Zealand, they were preserved in borax, and there were some challenges with that. The shell ducks, one was salted and the other one was not. And the one that was salted had been in the freezer a long time, and I could not open the wings up. So I could not make it a flying bird. It ended up being a standing bird. I soaked that thing for 2 days and tried everything under the sun to get that alua to free up, and it would not free up. So that's what happens. I've had that happen with other ducks and upland bird in freezers here, where if they just in the freezer too long, they just dry up too much to do it. And I get calls from guys like, hey, I've got a mallard I've had it in the freezer for a couple of years. And I'll usually follow that up with, so what year did you shoot it? And a couple of years turns into 6 years or something like that,
Makes a
oh,
difference.
wow, yeah, you shot that in 2017, huh? I don't know if it's going to be mountable, Yeah, so freezer, if you can keep it under a couple of years, that's great. Most people, I think, want to get them out of their freezer. They just can't find somebody to do it. There's not a lot of guys that do birds. I think there's a few around here.
Well, I feel like birds are so specific because, I feel like they're so fragile, and you can tell when someone does birds and when someone kind of does birds, right? Because there's definitely a difference. We know a couple guys that had a turkey done, and it is probably my favorite turkey mount just because it doesn't look anything like a turkey.
We still look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And poor guy, but.
With exotics and stuff, is that harder for forms and stuff and ordering that?
Yeah, definitely. Like those New Zealand birds, there was actually some places that had them, but they weren't perfect, and they weren't, unlike your standard stuff. The bodies you can mitigate. You can find something close enough, and you can shave it and make it look right. Generally speaking, it's when it comes to heads and things like, or feet, getting the right size or getting it to match, it can be a lot more difficult. And then just knowing, what they look like. Those swans were a good example. I had no idea they had curly feathers, and their wing bones were incredibly long, but way longer than a standard swan.
Seems like disproportionate than what you're used to.
Yeah, I was totally in just dealing with it. They were flying. I did those flying, so it worked out. It didn't matter. But if I'd had to do them standing, I'm not sure what I would have done to deal with that. I wouldn't have any sort of reference.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of taxidermists out there, and there's a lot of knowledge online that you can find. And there is a forum, taxidermy.net, that I can go to. I'm a member of, and you can type in questions. And somebody has had experienced that somewhere, and they'll answer it. They're usually pretty good about it. I did actually ask some questions about black swans when I got them. And I got a lot of feedback. Most of it was very negative. about
Oh, yeah?
about how difficult they are to mount and make look good.
And you're like, oh
You know,
boy.
good luck converting good luck converting that 3-foot neck, you know, and yeah, which was fun. I took a 36-inch piece of wire and basically very slowly worked it inside out, you know, because you got to get all that flesh off of there. There's a lining on all your necks. It's like a, you know, a sheen that covers up the flesh. So you got to get that off first, and then yeah, so you have to invert them. There's no way around it, in my opinion. I don't know how else to do it. It was
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
So what's your favorite part of the process? Is it showing the guy that you made his memory come to life, or is it when you get done washing it and it's coming together? What part of the process is your favorite?
Yeah, usually right before I go to preen it, and I find, you know, the bird starts to look like a bird. Like doing wood ducks today was a really good example of that. So I'm doing the strake wood duck, and wood ducks are challenging because there's all kinds of, you know, they're just beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And people know what they look like.
People
too.
know it, and there's
Yeah.
a gajillion pictures of really good wood ducks online, mounted and not mounted, you know, so there's lots of references out there, but they are incredibly hard to get, like those bar feathers lined up and things like that. And so once you get it on the farm and I get it on the stand there and I'm working on it and I've got the eye rings correct and it starts to come together and I hit it with that compressed air and the head feathers go back. I'm like, whoa, wood duck. And like,
Pops
now
out,
it's
yeah.
looking nice, and I get excited about it, and I wait for my wife to come home and judge it and tell me what she thinks. But
Is she a hard critic?
she is unabashed. Yeah, well, I love that about her. So she's been since the beginning. She'll tell me, you know what, those eyes look weird, honey. Or, you know, and I'll be like, oh, I thought they looked great. But it'll always send me back to look at it. So if I ask her to critique it, she does. Nowadays, in most cases, she's like, oh, nice. You know, she doesn't really get after it. She looked hard at those New Zealand birds because they're unusual looking. And a matter of fact, the swans are kind of ugly, in my opinion. I'll to show you pictures, but they look goofy with those big, long necks. Yeah.
So we've got this little bird in front of us.
Yeah.
I don't have any bird taxidermy. Gary,
No,
how
your
much
basement's
do you have?
lacking.
What do you have
That I've shot is just the swan and a wood duck
in a wood duck? But you have all these other,
that I've
dump
come
saves.
across. Yeah.
and this thing looks like it's not had any love for a long time.
Yeah.
How do you take care of something like that?
So, yeah, bird care after the mounts is very important.
Because I've heard they can, like, if you have a lot of birds in your house, you're a lot more prone to mites, and then mites can get into your big game heads as well.
You know, I haven't had that problem, but, you know, I've got a lot of birds in my house
It-
for a number of years. But, yeah, I think if you had poorly mounted birds, you would definitely be more prone to mites and things like that. And mites do like birds. But what you want to do with birds is you need to dust them every once in a while like you would do your furniture, right? But you don't want to ever put your hands on a bird. So even if your hands are dry and clean, you just got from the sink and you washed up with some bar soap and everything and all that, you still have oil on your fingers. And if you touch those feathers, that oil on your fingers is getting on those feathers, even if you can't see it. That oil attracts dirt. Eventually it integrates into the feathers, and then you end up with problems down the road. I was going to bring it and I didn't, but I have a Canada goose mount that's in my taxidermy room that was used as a decoy by my grandfather in the 60s.
That
It was
is
mounted
so
in the late
cool.
50s, yeah. It was done with Excelsior, and it's just on a plate, and they used to, and it's still, I mean, it's rough because they used to throw it in the back of the pickup and put it in the field to hunt geese with, you know, but with a whole bunch of other ones. But it's still together and holding up. And I bet you that bird, that one right there is going to be 20 years old or more. Absolutely. Yeah, so you don't ever want to muffle them. I have.
What do you dust them with?
I use a feather duster.
Like a real feather duster? Or
Well, or
what
just,
about one of them Swiffer ones? Does
yeah,
that
anyone
work?
that's just got some fine things that'll take dust away. So go with the grain, you know, with the feathers.
You don't want to comb them up. And
No,
comb 'em
definitely
down,
not.
huh?
You know, and the other thing is you can reverse a vacuum. Just air pressure is fine too. You blow that over them and gets the dust and things off. So if you do that every once in a while, that's all you really need to do to take care of a bird. obviously you want to keep your pets and things away from it. I've got one actually that I don't have the bird yet, but I've got a picture of it, and some guy's dog really liked the look of that Canada goose and took a big old bite of feathers out of the side of it, right? And so we're going to try to get a chunk of feathers to try to reintegrate because it's some sentimental piece. I've had others where a couple of months later, I did a widgeon mount for a guy, and he loved it. It was a beautiful Drake widgeon, green stripe, nice. And he mounted it above his couch in his living room, and he came home one day, and the widgeon's still on the wall, but it only had one wing, and the dog had jumped up and
got a wing.
Got a wing off of it. Can't fix that.
So just dust them. Is that all really you need to do for them?
Yeah, dust them and, keep them in a dry place. If they get wet, they're probably not going to survive it. I've moved a lot with birds, and that's the hardest thing. I hate shipping birds because you're going to push things around, and moving is difficult. We build crates and things. I've got a couple of snow geese that I've been carrying around for years, and they've survived all the moves, but one move, one of them, the head got jarred and it broke the skin on the back of the neck. It becomes hard. It's like, it'd be like I don't know how to describe it, but
like rawhide kind of.
Yeah, kind of, but it's not tough at all. So, the inside of that is wires and foam and things like that. And you pull on that, the skin's going to break. It usually breaks on a clean line. It's repairable, like that goose. What I ended up doing is rehydrating and sewing where it broke and then blow drying it and putting it back together, and it was okay. But in many cases, I had a friend who had his ducks that he had on the wall for 3 years that just one day they just fell, rattled on a house or something. The screw failed or who knows what, but they fell and they hit the ground, and both the hen and the drake were head down, landing kind of thing. So it just smash. Mm-hmm. No repair in that, unfortunately. But.
Yeah. I just think birds are so detailed. Like, I think when people think of taxidermy, a lot of time they think of like elk and mule deer and antelope, kind of the bigger ones, But I'm just turning this to look at it, Garrett. The fine detail that goes on in a bird is kind of unreal. And then even the more I've learned about the birds I hunt, the more I can look at taxidermy and go, that looks a little off, or that looks a little different. You know?
You go into some of the department stores and look at some of the stuff that's hanging from the ceiling or on the wall, and you're like, there's definitely some bad taxidermy. My daughter, for a while, was sending me, I think it's a website. It's badtaxidermy.com or something like that, right? And there's some pretty awful.
Yeah, there is.
There's some pretty awful mounts on there, and most of them from really a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you want to find black swan mounts, that's where I found most of the reference pictures of actual mounted black swans was on the bad taxidermy thing. But
what not to do?
Oh yeah. Or really buggy eyes, or And when I first started, I couldn't get. That was one of the things I had to really learn was how to get the eyes right. That's a critical piece.
It is, and
so
I would say that's probably the first thing I notice.
Yeah, so they have reverse eyelids. Ducks, their eyelids roll in and out from the top and the bottom, unlike ours, which go over our eyes. And so you've got to tuck those eyelids, otherwise you get a ring around the eyes, or they look buggy-eyed. And in most cases, using a glass or acrylic eye. And so you've got to get lined up right. And they can look all weird or cross-eyed or something if you do it wrong. But like you were talking about golden eyes, they have that yellow eye with that little white, little black dot in them, right? You can make them look mean. I think that's neat.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
One of my mounts I like to do is ring necks.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually suggest this to people when they bring them in. I'll show them, like a ring neck flying out of the wall. And, they get that neat line in their bill and all that. And you put their eyes so they just look like they're coming in I'm coming in now.
Mm-hmm.
And they look really cool like that. But in natural, they probably don't, glare. But,
you give them a little personality.
But you can still make it, you can make some personality into a bird if you want to. Turkeys and big birds, you don't have a choice. It's, they got to be, it's how the eyes are going to sit in the head. And a lot of the birds, like that chucker there, has 10 millimeter dark brown eyes. That's what's in it. And it should be a red eye ring around it.
Jeez,
yeah. Well, no, it's there.
Oh,
It's there. It's
I
just
saved this poor little
It's
thing
just
from
dusty.
the dump, Jared.
it's been there a long time, and they have
Yeah.
red. They call them red legs in a lot of places, red feet. But
Yeah, they're a little faded, aren't they?
yeah. Oh, that's what happens to feet is they either turn yellow or they turn black. One of the two.
And that's why you paint them.
Yeah.
You ever
Yeah.
use fake feet?
I use fake feet on ducks that are shot up really bad. There's a guy in Idaho that does cast feet, and they're incredible. And he does them in flying, standing, and he's got different poses for him. You can pick them out. He's been doing it for years, and he's really, really good at it. So I don't cast my own stuff, but if I did, I'd want to be like him because he's really good at it.
As far as mounting positions, is there a common way to mount thing? Like, are most mallards flying? Most wood ducks standing?
Whatever they find on Birdman's website is what.
Yeah.
You guys know who that is. He's Shane Smith. He's a taxidermist out of Colorado, I believe. And he's world famous, and he does a lot of social media, right? Anyway, he has a somebody who takes great pictures for him.
Yeah, good.
And so
photographer,
90% of I don't like it. I used to. I don't get bent out of shape anymore about it. But guys would bring me for reference pictures of how they want the bird mounted. Would be some shape, would be a Birdman mount. Like, oh man, do you have something? There's lots of pictures of ducks flying. How do you want this thing flying? But I prefer flying birds over standing birds for mounting in most cases.
And why is that?
I think you can line up feather patterns better, and it in most cases it's how you encounter the bird anyway, right?
Right.
More natural in that case. Sage grouse guys, they want them strutting with the tail up and the big air sacs. So that happens in the spring. That doesn't happen in the fall. But I'm okay if that's the way they want it. I'll do it.
Can you do it? Are those feathers there? Because they're not really like totally
the
fluffed up.
Yeah,
right?
the feathers are not all the way mature. Well, definitely on a September sage grouse, they're the whites there. That's about it. But a real mature one has a whole bunch of pins that come out and has little antennas and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And I've only gotten one sage grouse in like that had the antennas, and it was from a guy from out of state, and that bird was completely mature. He swore to God he shot it in September. I was like, okay, it's his tag, but they generally don't get that until like March.
Yeah. I think Fish and Game should give out upland game bird tags for the spring where you can shoot one, and it's for like taxidermist purposes.
I've wrote letters to the Fish and Game about changing the upland bird season period and gotten some interesting feedback on it.
What feedback did you get?
So I wrote Montana Fish and Game because they give you the light that you can customer or public input on seasons all the time, and I always write in about it. And for years I wrote in that I would love to see the upland bird season moved from September 1st to September 15th, just for the starting, not for taxidermy purposes, but mostly because I'd like to see the birds having a chance to
grow up a little
bit more. I've jumped coveys of Huns that can barely fly, September, 1st or 2nd. Anyway, I'd like to give them one other chance. And then for sage grouse especially, I've lobbied to change the season to the end of the season, so people could shoot mature birds, because I think a lot of folks, especially if they get into some immature sage grouse, just confuse them with sharp-tails. And, I mean, a young covey of sage grouse, like a late hatch, is going to look just like a bunch of sharp-tails. And if we're trying to propagate that species and get them back across the plains of Montana like they were back in the day, well, we need to shoot less of them.
Yeah.
So they have made the limits. They made it now where non-residents have to buy a special tag or a special additional cost and license. If they want to shoot sage grouse, they got to buy the full $120 license versus the 3-day $50 license or something. Things like that to try to get after it. But what if we move that season further on? You're probably still going to have some guys that shoot sage grouse thinking they're sharp-tails during their early season, but then you're also the guys that want to target them, will know that they're going after mature birds, right? The feedback I got was that there's an expected level of predation and die-off, whether it was from hunters or from weather or whatever, that's going to happen. And it's going to happen regardless if we shoot them in September or if we shoot them in December.
Because they're an R-type species. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so they that they didn't. There's no interest in at this point chasing the season because it does attract hunters. Also, Montana's proud of the fact that they have one of the longest bird seasons of all the Western United States. I mean, our bird season runs from 1 September to 31 December.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Ridiculous.
yeah. Any other state, we're months beyond any other state
Mm-hmm.
on that and separated. So that was the feedback I got on that. I also wanted to do things like uncouple the antelope opener with the pheasant opener, and I don't get any feedback on that. But
Yeah, that's a rough thing.
yeah, you got to make a decision.
Stacked
You know?
up, yeah.
Plus, I think you end up with some overlapping hunters in that case. You know, in places
Oh,
where
there's
you,
nothing worse than
right.
antelope hunting, and I'm sneaking an antelope, and all of a sudden they take off running. I look over, and there's guys
Yellow
walking their
vest.
pheasant dog, you know, and I'm like,
Right.
God dang it, guys.
Well, even this time of year, if you're trying to archery hunt antelope, you'll run into the bird hunters. You know,
Oh,
but-
well,
yeah.
that's our specialty.
Or
We-
like I've watched you guys on your
Yeah.
recent videos where you're low crawling after them. I've done a lot of
Yeah.
that too. Or going after mountain grouse, you know, and some
Yeah.
guys trying to bugle elk, and you know,
Yeah.
there's nothing more like a 12
We-
gauge shot to, to kind of dampen that opportunity.
we were archery hunting elk, and this is when we got spruce grouse, and I shot my elk that morning.
Hmm.
First elk I shot with a bow, right? And I remember we were kind of done hunting for the day at least. With the pack out, everybody's tired, so we were gonna ride our wheelers up just on the road and then drive a few little forest roads and see if we could find spruce grouse because we knew we were up there. And sure enough, we found them, and you can shoot them with a 22.
Right.
in Montana. So we had 22s, our little cowboy lever action guns. We couldn't hit the broadside of a bar, and I remember just shooting. And they're dumb, so it you don't feel like a great hunter, right? I mean, but thank God they were dumb. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got some. But I think I
Speak for
shot.
yourself. I was shooting better than you.
All right, that's not how
The
I
record
remember
needs
it.
to show that.
But I think we each got one.
Mm-hmm.
And we keep driving down this road because it kind of looped around back to the main road towards camp. And we're coming around, and it was a while. And we turn this corner, and there's a guy bow hunting elk standing in the middle of the road. And I'm like, how's it going? He's like, good until you guys were shooting right there. I was right next to a bull, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry,
Stomach
man.
just sank. Yeah.
Yeah, because we've been on the other side of that too before.
Oh yeah.
And we shot a lot. And he goes, well, what were you guys shooting at? And we're like, oh, we were shooting some grouse. And he's like, oh, did you get quite a few of them? There's a lot of shooting. And we're like, no, we got 2. You know, we gave him a ride back to his camp. He liked that. He didn't have to walk.
Well, there you go. You made
know,
up for it that way.
And we ended up bumping him a few more times that trip. And he was friendly about it. He was good. But I definitely was like, I didn't even think about it. You know,
Yeah.
I should have thought. Public land, like, yeah. So I'm a lot more aware of it now for sure.
My dad kind of taught me that. There's some places we hunt mountain grouse, and he was like, well, we're not going out early in the morning. And I always thought it was just like he wanted to sleep in, or I don't know what. Then I learned later it was because let the elk hunters,
Yeah.
you know, have their opportunity, and then we'll go in.
And that's one thing that's like legally you have the right to be there just as much as them.
Oh yeah.
But it's like morally not right. And that's hard to teach people that maybe don't have that growing up. That's like,
Absolutely. The
we
hunter ethics.
yeah, we don't want to step on anyone's toes. You know, we can all enjoy this. So if we can just kind of, but there's no law that says bird hunters can't start till
Right.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like that to propagate. You know, you get a lot of out-of-staters that come here, right? And there's different mentalities to hunting, I think, from what I've experienced, 'cause I've been stationed around the United States. And I think the East Coast hunters and things like that are much more prone to just go out there at 7 a.m. and blast up the grouse, you know, as opposed to...
Yeah. And I think that stems from the amount of land they have back east.
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't have anything
know?
against them. They just don't... They're
It's a
not
different
out here.
culture.
It's a
It's
different
different,
culture out
yeah.
west. You know,
Yep.
I was stationed in Michigan. We called it the Sea of Orange, and so you'd go out and open or a rifle, and literally every 100 yards or somebody sitting in a tree stand with hunter's orange on it. I've never seen anything like that. I'm surprised a deer even survived, but they thrive.
Mm-hmm.
when you come out here and you get a little bummed out of shape when you see two guys and
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that I mean, I've been so hot. We get up so early, get to go somewhere, and if someone beats you there.
yeah,
But that's another thing to talk about a little bit too is when you're out here in the western states, if there's public land and you see a guy is parked and walk in here, go to the next jump.
absolutely.
Why park right next to me and walk up right where
yeah.
I'm at? It
No.
just drives me
And
nuts.
see, usually that's somebody that's not.
Yes,
from
and
here.
that's kind of it's like a different culture thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that kills me too. It's exactly how I operate. I mean, and especially in Montana, there's so much block management, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're national forest or wilderness or whatever you want to deal with, but BLM state, there's a lot of opportunities and places to go. And if you're not familiar with this area, or don't hunt, then yeah, you might think, well, this is where the birds are, so I'm going to go here too. But if you do a little research, you'll find that you don't have to go very far to go to another spot.
No, you really don't. And
You guys have talked about it at length, about the preserving our public lands and keeping those in our hands, and things like the block management program or what makes this state great. In addition to the actual public land like BLM and state and things like that.
And mule deer, I do want to do a whole episode on mule deer, but they're kind of coming under fire too because we have a long mule deer season.
Yeah.
All of our seasons are really long.
They are exceptionally long, yeah.
And I feel blessed to have that because I don't feel a pressure to like the last few weeks, right?
Yeah.
So I enjoy it more. But with the more people coming into the state and doing it, that longer season, that's a lot longer time for a lot more pressure. So something's got to give.
Absolutely.
And
yeah, especially when populations are starting to be impacted like mule deer where they're, out east. It used to be nothing to go out to that, eastern Montana and scan over a bunch of bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Now you go to eastern Montana, you might scan over a bunch of 2 and 3 points, but you're not seeing near the deer you used to. Antelope too.
Yeah, antelope are the same,
I've been kind of surprised that we still have seasons for, antlerless antelope in some areas because, good grief, there's hardly any antelope here.
Well, and that's something with antelope they changed in the last, 5 years maybe I've noticed is like if you draw your antelope tag, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times you have an option of picking up a B tag.
Yeah, you can't anymore, yeah.
Yeah, and so I kind of like that they're doing that because it limits the amount of people that are going.
Yeah.
So when they sold A tags and B tags, you had guys hunting their A tags and a bunch of guys out there trying to fill B tags.
Right.
But then when you give the guys with the A tags the B tag, there's still only one hunter out there.
Right.
And he can only be or she can only be in one location at a time.
Right.
So
I don't know what the metrics are. I heard something crazy about it, but Montana gets, it's over 100,000 out-of-state hunters every year.
Oh, I'm.
Even
you're gonna get me started on this, and we'll get wound up. I'm gonna have to have another beer or something. Yeah,
that's just crazy. I love hunting upland birds a lot. And my dog is more of a waterfowl dog, and my first dog though was a pointer. He was an upland bird dog, but anyway, I love doing it. And one of the things I want to do is, up the high line and go to places where I can find more birds.
Mm-hmm.
Although it seems to be that they're everywhere. It's just the more pressure they get, they kind of disappear or they do get shot out.
Or Sharpies, like after the first few weeks of season,
good
luck getting close enough.
Getting close. Yeah, they become incredibly wised up.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. Huns too. Yeah, where they jump, get a big covey up at 70 yards. Well, great.
Yeah.
Watch where they land, and then they just next
tail. The sharp tail, they get up in late season, they fly a mile.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I've watched them in binos until I can't see them anymore. I'm like, good grief.
Yeah, that's the sage grouse we were chasing this year. Same thing. It was like
they would go, huh?
Oh God! As soon as you kicked them up, we'd hit one or two or whatever, and they just go, and you'd be like sitting there. I could see it. It'd be this little dot and still going, and it was like,
wow.
Even we have a lot of good public land out here. He was flying off the public land. It felt like they were gone.
Right. Yeah.
But with it is 2026, they push the out of state upland hunting a week.
Right.
So that'll probably help Because I mean, we've talked about this before, but it seems like I consider us like average people and not hardcore to the wall. But you have a guy showing up with like dog boxes and stuff. That's hard for anyone to compete with.
Yep.
The commercialization of the outdoors,
Right.
It's getting to a point where people are like crazy about it.
Yeah.
And we run into that because our favorite thing to do, like you mentioned, was we bow hunt antelope and we upland game bird hunt.
Yeah.
So it's like we're driving around hunting birds, and if we see a good buck or something, it's like
try.
yeah, might be rock, paper, scissors. All right, it's your turn to go, and Garrett hops out, and I stay in the truck with the dogs, and I'll pick him up. Usually after unsuccessful.
Right, another failed stock,
another
right?
failed stock, because we're not like sitting on a water hole. We're like spotting, and it's difficult. But we've noticed, especially during that season, the increased numbers of just like, I mean, we're a guy and two dogs, and yeah, we'll walk a couple of coulees and we shoot some birds, and then you pull up and there's a guy running 6 guys out of a truck, and he's got a trailer with 9 dog boxes. And when that dog's tired, he flips one out, throws another one out, and it's like,
now the birds don't have a chance.
yeah, they don't have a chance, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how you get around that other than because increase in prices for bird licenses isn't going to mitigate folks that want to come out west and hunt, and decreasing access does, decreasing availability, things like that. The season dates, like you're talking, I think they did that with the pheasants this year too, right? Isn't if you want to hunt pheasants, non-residents can't hunt pheasants the first week of the season unless they buy the full.
I'd have to look. That would make me happy.
Yeah,
though.
check it out.
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be a
pretty
little burst of happiness.
Yeah, check it out. I'm pretty sure that they've offset the pheasant season for non-residents unless you buy the
whole package
deal, right? Same thing like sage grouse. If you want to hunt sage grouse, well, then you have to buy you can't use a temporary license to do it. You have to buy the whole deal. And I don't know if that'll make much of a difference or not. If guys have it in their, I've hunted out of state enough to know that when I'm going to go, I'm going to pay more money because I'm a non-resident, right?
Oh, yeah. Amen
Absolutely.
to it. I think Montana's got such a great resource here, and
yeah,
in my opinion, we're a little underpriced for what you offer. The length of the season, the access, the amount of public lands.
Yeah, the length of the season, definitely.
But I also think that residents should get a benefit over non-residents, and not just a financial one, an access one, and that could be how the seasons work. Like, I'm allowed to hunt a lot more places and a lot longer than someone that's not from this state.
Right.
It's because I live here. This is my home, you know. But,
yeah, they bring a lot to the economy, but at the same time, you don't want it to be where this is a temporary resource because we've overhunted it, right? And I think the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks owes it to the Montana community to make sure that we don't overhunt it or overharvest it because we've allowed too many people to come in and get after it.
And there's so much money behind it now. It's
I know.
Almost like
it's billions
machine.
of dollars. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just in hotels and things like that, but it's in, ammunition, rifle, clothing sales, ridiculous. Shields.
We got a Shields with a Ferris wheel.
Unbelievable. I know. I remember when Shields, you guys remember when Shields was a little teeny store on 24th Street?
No, but I remember it in the mall.
Yeah, it was very small.
It had its own building?
Yeah, it had its own building by the time. It was very small, and you could, they sold a little bit of fishing gear and some outdoor gear. It was like an REI size building, right? And
now they got
and then we had Sportsman's Warehouse moved in, and everybody, that's long since out of business, but that was the big deal, right? Because
love Sportsman's Warehouse.
I did too, and they're still that in different states. And I travel for the military. I see that, and then.
Cabela's
moved in, and it was the big deal. And now you're lucky to see 10 cars in the Cabela's parking lot because
Bass Pro thing.
Yeah, the Bass Pro combined thing. But there's still things that I get at Cabela's that you can't get at Shields. But
I think Cabela's got rid of their bargain cave, and that killed it. I mean, I would go to Cabela's.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just to walk through the bargain cave.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You know what lost it? What lost it for me? I was. where was I? I guess maybe it was the Michigan Cabela's, and I was in there looking for fishing gear, and they had marlin, deep sea fishing gear in the fishing section. I asked the guy, "What?
What are you doing? Yeah.
What is this here for? Or saltwater gulp?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have saltwater gulp here? We don't have saltwater for 1,000 miles from here." And well, that's required. It's part of the stocking. And I was like, well, that's why you're a franchise, I guess. But
Yeah.
It's not localized, right?
I mean, we would go on family trips and hit all the Cabela's along the way.
Hit the bargain cave.
Check the bargain caves. It was like fun. You'd walk through Cabela's, you'd see the mounts, you'd go to the bargain cave. And even if you didn't buy anything, it would get you you'd walk through the store, and then it works on you like, oh shit, I've always wanted that new fishing rod. Look, they've got one right here. I could get one.
Yeah.
And now I wouldn't stop at a Cabela's if it.
Yeah.
Nothing to go see. It's like, you have everything every other Cabela's has. Why do I need to?
Well, and a lot of the stuff you can get online now too, right?
Yeah.
So if you want something, generally you can just jump on the internet and find it for close to the same price, usually with some sort of shipping deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, things have changed a lot. Still can't get bird taxidermy online, so that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's alive and well. Well, I'm going to have to bug you too after this. I won't pressure you on our live filming, or not live filming, but on camera here. But I do have a turkey I want you to look at.
Okay.
Maybe not mount, but I don't know. You said you're kind of getting into the turkeys. What we've noticed, and it was kind of a shock to us, is the turkey community is kind of snobby when it comes to birds.
Yeah.
We went to what was it, the
Turkey Federation
National? Is it NWFA or something?
Yeah,
you
went to their convention.
Yeah, we went to the bingo. I won some nice turkey calls at the bingo. Nice. But I shot this bird in South Dakota this spring, and I never shot a bird like it. It was like the feathers, like a normal Marion up here kind of has I would say kind of a blue iridescent to it.
Right. Yeah.
This one it's orange, right? Oh, that's a good face, right? I like you.
So I have a cinnamon phase from a guy from Tennessee right now in my freezer that I'm looking at. It's a cinnamon phase turkey. That's really neat if you've got something like that.
Well, I'll have to show you pictures of it, but
yeah.
First off, we were hunting with two guys from New York as well. We got invited to this camp. And hypocritical, I always kind of talk negatively about out-of-state guys, and I was hunting out-of-state in South Dakota to get this turkey. So I'm a hypocrite for sure. But they were with us, and they were major turkey hunters. Like they just did 2 weeks in Montana, and then they were doing 2 weeks in South Dakota. So I was there for a week with them. But when I got my bird back to camp, first thing they said was, "Ooh, that's not a Merriam." And I was like, "What do you mean?"
I was going to ask you, is it a Rio?
So I did a lot of research.
Yeah.
And Wyoming let Fish and Game, or Game and Fish, whatever they call it, let Rios go.
Yeah, well, I was going to tell you.
Right? And so I'm not sure if it's a Rio, because it's not quite a Rio. So I think it's a hybrid. A Rio and a Merriam.
I get a lot of those for that Polestar stuff for the kids. And so the band of white that would normally be on the top of the tail feathers there is usually kind of a cinnamon color.
Yep.
Or it'll be kind of just a really dull white, because that's the Rio that's in there. They absolutely are interbreeding in Wyoming. I think Wyoming knows it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, talking to turkey guys, it's not a bird to mount. I thought it was cool. It's like a cool color phase. It's a hybrid. Because like in waterfowl, you shoot something
that is
crazy.
Snobby. So it really has nothing to do whether it's, a pure form of the species, just whether you like it or not, right?
To me, it's cool.
Right, exactly.
And I grew up shooting white ones,
right.
all the time. So I'm not like...
It's what a guy is happy with.
And even at the Federation thing, I asked the guy who obviously was running it, who's like turkey hunts all over the country. And I was like, look at this picture of this bird. What do you think? I don't know if I should get it mounted, all this stuff. And he just was like, it looks like a hybrid.
Yeah.
And
Not-
it shocked me.
Right,
I was
like, wow, you're not pure.
Yeah, like, whoa.
I want pure
okay.
of you. Yeah, I don't know.
Which it's the duality between like waterfowl, where if you shot a waterfowl or a mallard or something with a strange color phase.
Right. Or like I got a guy he hasn't brought it to me yet because he's had it in the freezer a couple of years and he's called me twice about it, but he has a mallard pintail cross. And I'm like, bring me that bird. I cannot wait. You know, I've seen him in an immature phase, but I was really hoping that maybe this is actually a,
Mature one.
Yeah, because they'll interbreed and you get some really unique features. Yeah, it'll have like a pintail head, but a mallard body kind of thing. And that's exciting to me.
It's exciting, right?
Yeah, and it's a unique bird. You'd love to put it on your wall.
You wouldn't be like, nah, it's a hybrid. Only pure mallards here.
Yeah.
That's what the turkey guys were like. It was strange. Even on the online forums, they're like,
if it's not pure, I don't know. No, I think if you like it or makes you happy, you do it. I don't do big game. I'll never do big game, but I do get things mounted on here to there. But generally, it's not super trophies. It's what I like. So one of the unique things I have on my wall is a U Aoudad, half life size.
Where did you get that?
In New Mexico. When I was stationed on White Sands Missile Range, we got Gimsbuck or oryx. They're down there, and then there's lots of Aoudad, and I just thought she was just pretty and she looked nice. It made me happy, so I had it mounted. And but normally I think people would be like, "What would you? What are you thinking?" But it just looked nice.
That's like my mountain goat downstairs.
Oh, your mountain goat's beautiful.
That was a good mount.
That's a great mount. Yep.
We went on that, and it was. I always exaggerate it. 120 miles on foot. It was probably the biggest backcountry dangerous thing my brother and I have gone on, and there was a lot of kind of life and death moments.
Oh yeah,
and that wasn't the biggest goat, and it was a nanny. She didn't have a kid,
but it was accessible.
It's the only shootable one we saw in 7 some days, and I went on horses, and it was like late October. So if I didn't shoot one on this trip, I'm not getting one. But that mount down there, and it is gorgeous, and I love it. It's not so much that it measured at any size, but every time I look at it, it's that whole, I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
That whole trip, that whole experience. So.
And that U Aoudad was the same thing. It was way up on a mountain ridge, that like steep hillside. We had to hike almost straight up, scaling over shale and cactus and stuff in New Mexico to get to it, and made a long shot uphill, which was hard. I remember anyway, and I just thought she was pretty. It was just unique. Birds. I got plenty of birds on the wall, but most of them have some sort of story. I got a Mexican mallard. It's
never heard of that.
Yeah.
Is that a hybrid?
No.
Is it illegal?
Well, it may be. So
is it illegal?
They yeah, right. Deport that thing immediately. ICE is going to be at my door tomorrow. Anyway, both the male and female look like a hen mallard, except the male has a bright yellow beak. And the female has the orange beak. Other than that, the head, the
not
body.
Green.
Yeah, the head, the body is just your bland brown duck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's one of the unique ones I have on the wall that most people are like, wow, he has a hen mallard on his wall.
Is there it's a species, or is it like color fades?
It's a subspecies of a mallard down there that's
Mexican
only found.
Mallard.
Yeah, it's only found in that general area of, Texas, New Mexico, and that northern part. What is that part of Mexico called? Cholula, whatever. The Juarez area. I was stationed in White Sands, which is not far from El Paso, kind of the armpit of Texas. I'm going to offend some Texas people on here with that, but anyway, there is some decent duck hunting down there, believe it or not.
That flyway comes down through there.
That duck is local, right?
Oh, okay.
Stays there, doesn't go far or whatever. But the flyway goes. We go down to. I have some friends that we go to New Mexico every year to hunt ducks in late January because you can hunt generally in T-shirts, last year we froze our butt off in late January down there. There was ice in the lake. It's never been like that. Even my dog was like, "What is this place?" He remembered it as being a place he could swim in 45 to 50 degree water, and not like that. But all the ducks are like super plumed up, in late January.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you get green-winged teal in there that have even the change in color at the back of the head where they've got the little iridescent stuff on. Oh yeah, beautiful ducks, and that's why we do it.
Yeah.
Not because I want to mount every one of them. I don't have a lot of room for more birds on my wall. But
If you were to give me an estimate, and are all the birds you did yourself, or do you have some other people done?
I have the snow geese that I've been carrying around for years that were done by a guy in Missouri that did a great job, and I have a hooded merganser that was done by a guy in North Carolina. And the only reason I keep that one is because I haven't got another hooded merganser that I could redo. I'm not very happy with that mount, but the snow geese are nice, and they make good
But
reference.
the rest are you?
The rest is all mine, and I think I have about 25 or so ducks on the wall.
Really?
My wife's like, we don't have any more room for birds on the wall, but I'll sneak one in here and there.
Yeah, after 25,
she's not going to notice.
Know 26.
Yeah, she's not going to notice this ring neck, here. The way she notices is weird. It's not like where most people would be like, oh, there's a new bird on the wall. She'll notice because I'll do something stupid like have it's flying to the left and it'll be flying into the corner, and that's not good feng shui or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Your birds can't be flying into the wall. You got to have it flying, into the room, and she'll notice that I do something dumb like that. And she's like, by the way, where is that duck? Where did that come from? When is that? Oh. And there's still that I'm pursuing, there are things I'd love to get.
Any in Montana, or are they all out of state?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know, other than, like spruce grouse would be really cool. If I could get a mature spruce grouse, that would be.
What about like valley quail or?
Yeah, I shot a whole bunch of those down in New Mexico. I don't have any mounted anymore. I had one, but it didn't survive a couple of moves. Yeah, and there's not very many of those out here. I guess if you find a spot, I know in Wyoming they're certain getting a bunch of them now.
Idaho has a ton. I didn't know if there was Bob Whites. Have you got any? Bob Whites?
I worked on a game preserve in North Carolina with my pointer. It's how he got to be a really good hunting dog, and that's what they had in their pen was Bob. I kind of lost interest. I thought they're really neat birds. Quail are very difficult to mount. They're right up there with rough grouse because they're so thin and so small. Then they fall apart in the water. If you could mount a quail, a lot of guys freeze dry their quail.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen them in like these glass cases, and they're all these perfectly mounted quail. Like, wow. Somebody was really good with small birds, right? And they're perfect, but they're perfect because they were freeze dried, and then they just put the eyes in them.
Do they pull the guts out?
No, that's just freeze dried whole. That's how they do them. I get my turkey heads freeze dried.
Huh.
And so you skin it to the back of the head, and you take the neck out. I send it down to place. They inject the wattle on there to make it look how you want it, and they freeze dry it in that position. It's those machines.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
I've heard of that.
I was looking at doing my own freeze-dried meals for a while, and I thought, I could double it up and use it for taxidermy. And then I looked at how much of those things cost, and I'm not reading that anytime soon.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that's really cool about taxidermy is like, to some people, they walk in and like, wow, there's a bunch of dead animals on your wall. But to you, it's like, well, that's this memory. Well, that's this memory, and it kind of tells story.
Well, right, yeah.
That's
within,
one of my first turkeys.
Yep.
It's each one has a little.
So to be able to preserve that, that's just.
I've had people come in the house and, quote Ace Ventura, oh, what a lovely house of death. No. Every one of these things has something, means something to me. So, yeah. And that's kind of probably what keeps me going with it is just, I know I'm doing that for somebody. Generally, when they bring me a bird they want mounted, it means something to them. I've had them carry him into the driveway like a little baby, cradled and, just very gently handed to you, okay, this guy really is proud of this
really
bird. Yeah. I had a guy bring me a snow goose and he had it wrapped in pillows.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. He was like hell-bent that this thing wasn't going to get
Shot
hurt.
it out of the air. It bounced on the ground a few
probably
times.
50 yards up and took a nosedive into a dirt field. But
yeah,
he was really proud of that bird. wanted
My
it nice.
brother has a weird, I don't know if I
I'm a
should call it
mounter.
an obsession, but he holds dead birds like they're alive. Weirdest thing. When not so much now, you got a vest, but when we were younger and just learning how, or we
Carrying
didn't
around.
have dogs, he'd shoot one, and I'm not kidding you, he would cradle that thing back in his arm, back to the truck or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just getting
Yeah.
ready for my mounts, Jerry.
Yeah, exactly. You got it.
Taking care.
Taking good field care of it. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I remember now you got the lanyards on your bird vest, you
Mhm.
can string your ducks up on or birds or throw them in your bag.
Oh yeah. Compared to how we started to where we are now,
yeah.
the gear's made it.
I was looking at your shirt here. I've mounted several coots.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Yeah, they're actually really cool birds to mount.
Why is that?
They got little beady red eyes.
Yeah.
That really unique white beak to them. They actually come together pretty nicely. I'd happily mount coots. The feet are fascinating.
They are
look
weird.
strange.
So they're like a gray and green. They have like a
Yeah.
moss green color to them, and they're super long.
They're not webbed.
No,
They're
well,
like-
they
they got
aren't webbed
big
to a point. They
pads,
have
yeah.
these big pads that actually have some webbing that comes out when they swim,
Yeah.
but they rarely swim. They mostly walk shorelines, and they swim a little bit, and they get in the mud and they walk.
Yep.
Mud chickens, people call them, or whatever down south. But
They don't eat good.
yeah, I tried. Do you guys know who Hank Shaw is?
Huh.
Mm-mm.
He's a cook. He does those cookbooks, buck, moose, duck, goose,
Oh,
pheasant,
okay.
quail, cottontail. He's awesome. Somebody.
We'll have to pick some up.
They're-
I'm always looking for ways to cook stuff.
Oh yeah, he does great outdoor cooking. But he's got coot risotto in his duck, goose book, and I was like, we're gonna try it. Whatever, we're gonna shoot a few coots and see what this is about. Yeah.
Not good.
No, it's right up there with your
Yeah.
with your golden eye,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
I didn't care for him that much. They
Yeah.
certainly eat them in the South.
And they don't, because they're not like a bird that spends a lot of time flying.
No,
Right.
definitely not.
So they have no breast meat, which is weird.
Yeah, they're pretty skinny. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not
Yeah.
like a big, like
Actually-
a mallard, you get a good, or even those diving ducks, at least you get a little breast off them. Them coots, they were like this big and they're
Right.
thin.
I was on the
No tell them.
hunting late season. Was it last year or year before? And anyway, there's a guy that's floating the river above me, and we just kept hearing his shooting as he's getting closer and closer. Boom, 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 boom. Like, wow, that guy's tearing them up, but I'm not seeing any birds flying, He finally floats by, and I'm like, how's it going, And, oh, yeah, I almost got my limit. Yeah, that's what he was doing. Tearing the coots up.
Yeah. Shooting the coots.
Oh, he said he loved them. So,
Yeah.
hey, some people do.
Yeah. Good for him.
I just feel bad
Not
when you're
mine.
floating and the dog's sitting on the boat and watching those coots kind of swim
Yeah.
along there. And like, no, I don't want to shoot it, buddy. Sorry.
I've pulled up on them a couple times and they come flying by because they look like a diver duck, And they,
Yep.
Yeah.
But then you get looking close, those long feet because they fly with their feet behind them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not tucked like it. Yeah. Yeah, they make a unique conversation piece for a mount, if you do a coot mount.
Keep an open
That's a
mind.
good point.
Yeah, you can do a little
Coot
mud
mount.
patch and a coot standing there.
For the studio, coot mount.
That brings me to one question I forgot to ask here. Do you ever talk people into mounting stuff or not? Because I feel like I've talked to taxidermists. Like I know one that no matter what deer I shoot, it'll be the most unique, cool deer I bring into him, right? I
Mm.
might just bring him in to sell him the cape or whatever, but if he'd be like, oh man, I've never seen a 2-point like that before. Oh man, you should think about putting that on a shoulder. Like, ooh,
Yeah. Well, I hunt with those army buddies of mine every year, and there's been a couple occasions where I've been, okay, you have to mount that bird.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, like a guy will get a storm widgeon down in New Mexico, so that's where the head is completely white except for the green stripe, and and the little gray speckle. I mean, gorgeous. And
You're
he's
like,
just carrying it
you
back,
don't-
getting ready to
yeah.
wring the neck or whatever. Like, no, if
You
you
don't
don't
know what
mount
you
that, I
have.
will. Kind of thing. That there's been those occasions, and then I've had guys bring me stuff where I'll suggest a different mount than they wanted because either the condition of the bird. Mallards, this happens all the time. So, mallards look best with the back out because you got the blue feathers and
Mm-hmm.
white speculums. And big green head and all that. But a lot of times those get shot up or the wing is broken bad enough or something. And they also look cool tucked in coming right this way. So, somebody come in and they'll bring me the Birdman photo of the duck flying sideways, on the wall. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that photo about a gajillion times. But have you ever considered this, and show them a photo of like, oh, wow, yeah, that is cool. Or guys will want a standing mount, and I'll talk them out of standing mounts because I just don't think they look as good. And you shot the bird flying,
Mm-hmm.
Make it a flying mount if you want. Sage grouse, different deal. They look really cool if you get a big male, fan open.
Fan open. I know we hunted a lot of those diver ducks this last year, and I kind of have a love for them.
Appreciation for them, because
Yeah. I know a lot of people kind of look down on them, don't shoot them. It's not like a...
I mean, like scalp or golden eyes and
Golden
stuff?
eyes.
Golden eyes.
Golden
We
eyes.
shot a lot of it. I saw an internet thing that was like a picture of a mallard coming in, and it was like a Boeing 747 slow bird,
Right.
and then the next one was a golden eye, and it compared it to a fighter jet.
Right.
After hunting them, I almost enjoy it more because they'll be flying, coming into your decoys or flying by. Sometimes they land in your mallard decoys and stuff. Come flying by, and you'll shoot, and they'll drop out of midair and hit the water, and you'll think you got them.
Yep.
But they're evading it, so they'll go from mid-flight, they'll dive underwater, swim, pop up flying, and take off that quick.
Yep, I've seen them avoid shot. They're fun to hunt, no doubt about it. Usually the reason I end up shooting a golden eye is I feel bad enough for my dog that okay, he's got to retrieve something today, So I'll end up like, okay, I could use some feathers or whatever, and we'll take a golden eye that day just for that. But yeah, most of the time I haven't been shooting them because I want to eat it, and I really love eating mallard. I mean, well, if I had to choose, which duck is my favorite to eat, I always ask people, "What's your favorite to eat?" Which one do you like, Peace? And a lot of people say teal or something like that. But number one on my list is a fat widgeon, like a white, fat, super fat widgeon. Oh yeah, that's my favorite. Followed by a wood duck. But unfortunately, they're so pretty. I almost hate skinning a wood duck because they're so pretty. But a big fat wood duck is delicious, and then mallards, of course, after that. But
we don't shoot a lot of other ducks. Mallards I like. My wife will pluck a teal, and she cooks them. God, she cooked 3 of them last year, and then after we picked the carcasses clean, she threw the bones and made stock, and then we had soup. Oh my!
There you
gosh.
go. Yeah, super good.
Yeah, super good.
I have one of those duck pickers,
with like the rubber things.
Oh,
yeah, and so we pluck almost everything.
How does that work?
It's fantastic.
I was we kind of looked to get one. I was like, I think they're kind of hokey. Does it get the down off even?
Absolutely. Yeah, you should come by sometime. I'll show you in action, or bring some ducks you want to pluck.
Okay.
And we'll pluck them up. So you got to keep them, clean and dry. You try to pluck a weck bird. I struggle a little bit with geese with them. You gotta kind of pre-pick a goose for it'll work. But for ducks, it makes them look like something you bought out of the store.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You don't have to singe them or anything. We used to do the paraffin thing, and that's how I grew up doing it. And so we take ducks and have a galvanized pail that you would heat over a propane burner, heat water in it, and put blocks of paraffin in it. You take your bird.
Like paraffin wax?
Paraffin wax.
Okay.
And you dip your bird in the paraffin wax, and you set it there, and it gets cold. The wax hardens, you pull it, and all the feathers come off with the wax. You do it again, and it takes all the down off, and it makes a really pretty bird, but it's nasty. I mean, you're dealing with nasty water and then nasty paraffin later. You can heat it up and try to separate it, but it's not the best way to do it. So my grandfather had a duck a minute picker, which was built in like the 60s, has boxes that would collect the down, so you could make pillows or whatever with it. Oh, yeah. Really? I still have the thing. I gave it, my cousin has it down in Cody, Wyoming now, but they don't make those anymore. Now the modern picker, the guy wish I could remember the name of it. Anyway, it's made by a couple old guys from Mississippi, I think. And anyway, it's great. You hook it to a shop vac, and yeah, it works
Yeah, I'll have to see it because
super good.
you skin them.
Yeah.
You just skin them. I feel like
For
you
puddle
get so
ducks.
much.
Yeah, puddle
Yeah.
ducks, the skin is the best.
Yeah.
Golden eyes, no. So
No.
diver ducks are bitter. The
Yep.
fats is
Right.
bitter on a diver duck.
Yep. And it's I've tried.
Yeah.
I've been defeated. So, but I pluck everything, even upland game birds too. I'll pluck. I think it helps keep them from turning to jerky in the oven.
Well,
And,
if you ever get a chance to do it, since you like hunting diver ducks, someday if you ever have a chance to go out and do it, that layout hunting for diver ducks is one of the funnest things I ever did.
what is that?
So we were in Michigan and hunting on Lake St. Clair, which is in between Lake Huron and Lake Erie.
Okay.
It's a huge lake. It straddles Canada and the U.S., as a matter of fact. Anyway, they get loads of redheads, scalp, buffleheads, ruddy ducks, and then later on canvasbacks. So it's a great hunt. But the way they hunt is you go out these boats that sit on the water, and you lay in this layout boat. So it's just a gray boat the size of this desk, and you're laying down in it like you're
How do the
Like
ducks
a
like
like
you're
layout
in a
see it?
sleeping bag, right?
Uh-huh.
Kind of thing, with you got a little bit of a support for your back. That's it. And your shotgun sits in front of you, and the water's floating around you, and you're surrounded by decoys and decoy strings. And the way those divers work is they fly low over the water or high, and then they see the decoy strings, and they'll get right on the surface, and they'll come right in your face. It's super fun. Or redheads, which will come out of the stratosphere and come straight down on top of you, but you're floating. And then when you shoot something, there's a guy that's usually a couple hundred yards away watching in binos, waiting for you to shoot. And they come out with a tender boat. That's how you get in and out of this layout boat.
Mm.
And it's a way of hunting, a method of duck hunting, and it's super
That
exciting.
sounds really
yeah.
cool.
When it's really cold and nasty, it can be a little unique because you have water splashing in your face. And, I've had situations where I've got an autoloader shotgun,
Yeah, it freezes up.
right? You get one shot. That's all
Yeah.
you're going to get, because it's not going to action, right?
Yeah.
And so pumps are actually a better situation for that, but you don't get a lot of time. They come in the decoys and you got a couple of seconds. So you're rocking at the same time you're trying to balance and follow a bird. It's fun. It's
Sounds
super fun.
really fun.
Yeah, I encourage anybody, if they've never done it, to try that sometime. It's a great time. A lot of
I'd
states,
try
I
it.
don't even think you can do it here because you can't use a submersible boat to hunt ducks, I believe, in Montana.
Oh,
Mhm.
because you're kind of below the water, your body. or
Your
whatever.
body is below the water line. There's you're floating, but not really. We had it requires gear. So,
Yeah.
like anything else, I've got a loft in my shop that's full of decoys, and we had a ton of decoys that were on strings, and you would use old organ weights, for piano organs, those great big weights. And so you'd put organ weight, and then you have this cord, and you had your decoys were on a D-clip, and you would go down and just basically, it's like a trot line for fishing. You'd clip on a decoy as you book down the line, and you do 10 or 15 strings of decoys in a certain array, depending on where the current was flowing and the wind and whatever. And then you set the layout boat in a certain position and wait for the ducks. And it was a lot of fun.
That sounds
awesome.
really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, watch
Man.
some videos on it sometime.
I will. I'm going to watch
Yeah,
it.
I think it'll make you like, we should plan a trip like that.
I'm trying to get out of credit card debt. And then you go ahead and bring that up. Now I'm thinking,
Business expense.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah, business expense, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Adam, it was kind of very eye-opening on what to do with these birds once we do get them, and kind of, the difficulties and the things to watch out for.
Yeah.
I wasn't very aware of. I appreciate you coming in, and
Well, it's been
And
fun.
talking to us
Thanks for
about it.
having me. I enjoyed the talk.
we might have you back too.
Sure.
To talk about how my turkey mount went. But yeah, it's really cool. And I'm looking at these photos. It's unreal. But
I figured you'd find those pretty fascinating.
that,
Yeah.
and I normally don't shoot mergansers. You know,
You probably still won't.
I might now that I've seen this.
If you get one in your hand, you're going to notice that, especially a really mature drake, they are really pretty. They have really unique colors that are on the other side of that yellow breast, right?
Mhm.
That color patterns and feather patterns that most people have no idea exist because they're never that close to one.
Yeah,
You know.
because they fly fast as hell, and
Yeah.
anytime you get close to them on the water, they're gone.
Yeah, and they're pretty tough to kill. I mean, it's a big bird, right? So a big mature drake or merganser, common merganser, is going to be 5 pounds, right? So it's a big duck.
That is a big duck.
Yeah, they're bigger than a mallard.
Maybe I'll try to check that box this year.
Yeah,
We'll
there
see.
you go.
We'll see.
You might have to eat a couple of them to get to one that's mountable. That's
Yeah.
and now that it is a separate limit. Have you noticed that?
I did. Yeah.
You can't
last
put it
year.
in your 6 duck limit. It's got its own. Well, actually, no. I think it is part of the 6 duck limit. It didn't used to be. It used to be a separate limit. Now it's included
now it's
in
part
it.
of it.
So,
So you're limiting yourself from. It could be your 6 duck. No, you could get your 5 mallards and then a mergander.
You know, I'm not really a duck snob. If it flies, it dies.
if it flies, you shoot at it.
I
and
shoot
hope for
at
the
it. Yeah,
best.
I'm definitely there for my dog. I did shoot a speckled goose last year, though.
The speckle belly,
Yep.
nice.
On the river. So that was
Best eating goose that flies.
it. I don't think I've eaten it yet. I think it's still. It's good though, huh?
They're like a big mallard. Yeah, if it's a speckle belly, an actual
Yeah,
speckle belly,
it
a
was.
yeah, those
Yeah.
are delicious.
He came into my mallard decoys.
Wow.
Yeah. So I didn't know what he was when he first flew by. I was like, God, that's a big duck. Because
Yeah.
I've never really seen one before. He told me what it was after I was like, look at this weird
Yeah.
thing I shot.
I had a cackler fly by me, and I was so stunned to see a cackler, I didn't even bring my shotgun up. I was so still embarrassed about that. My buddies were like, "What's wrong with you, Adam?" Yeah, it's kind of neat. See
Really
those-
neat. Really neat. But
Well, thanks again for coming on, Adam.
You bet.
Really appreciate the talk with you. Probably be in contact because maybe the coot for the studio. Yeah, I just great talking to you, and I look forward to kind of chatting with you later about it and showing you some things. And
Super.
yeah, I plan on shooting you maybe some pictures and stuff, getting your expert eye on,
Absolutely.
if it's worth it or not. But what are we up to this next weekend?
I don't know. I got to check with the old lady, see if I have the baby or not.
I am getting
Building
my
a crib?
house ready for my baby.
No, okay.
Oh, wow.
I have a crib and a changing table to finish. So it was supposed to be done before hunting season, but I didn't
It didn't plan right.
plan right, and the crib's taken 5 more weeks than I wanted it.
Why do you keep bringing
too.
this up?
I don't know.
This is not a baby making crib podcast. This is an outdoor venture podcast.
I would say might be a baby making podcast,
Oh.
depending on how you
All
like
right.
it. Come on.
And with that, until next time, we will be
Surviving the week to live on the weekends.